Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And this is the place where you get to call in and talk to two trans people about all of your questions, anything and everything trans-related. Whether you are a biological essentialist, there's only two sexes, or whether you are maybe a mom or a dad or a sibling to a trans person and you have a question you can't really ask your. We're happy to talk to you. We're happy to help to the best of our abilities. No promises we'll be friends after if you have some shitty views, but hey, we're having the conversation, right? So, thank you guys for being here. I'm Arden Hart, and with me is Lux. What's up, Lux?
Hello. I'm having a great day. I got some errands accomplished today. I got myself a kombucha that I forgot about and then remembered. So I'm happy. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, all things considered, I do feel like I'm doing an impressive job maintaining my Delulu.
Sure.
As I'm going into this year, I'm like, everything's normal, everything's fine. Just keep at it, and it'll come to a halt eventually. But it hasn't happened today, so. Yeah, we've got a nice show for you guys planned today. We've already got some callers filling up the lines that we are going to get to here shortly. I do want us to touch on last week's poll and then pitch you guys this week's poll, which shouldn't take long because last week's poll was a bit of a mistake and a flop. We'll talk about it. And so we should be able to get to calls real quick. But let me make sure I get the next poll ready in the chat real quick. I don't know, Lex, if you have any area you want to fill here, anything new and like your move and stuff. Tell us about your move. How's that going for you?
Things are going well. I'm standing at my standing desk and my foot thing is not cooperating right now. But yeah, it's been very chill. I feel like things have settled pretty well. I'm cooking dinner like 5 nights a week again. So as far as my actual move, it was a harrowing couple of days, but now things are relaxing and I'm kind of getting into that mind state of like, oh yeah, I kind of have like a video essay channel that I should work on sometimes because I've just been focused so much on other things. But yeah, it's been pretty good. It seems like people are chill in this area. I'm about to meet with someone tomorrow about a community garden plot. So I'm doing that even though I don't have like my own area to do it. So yeah, I'm trying to get into those like learning new things, the prepper stuff. Arden and I,
yes,
we're the preppers on the channel for sure.
Oh, 100%. I know. It's funny because Matt is pretty reasonable and can be really. He analyzes everything, and preppers are often kind of lumped into the delusional category, and with a slightly defensively, there is definitely some woo-woo and bullshit in the prepper community. However, I must say, as a trans person who's very politically activated, I have been feeling the writing on the wall for a long time, and I have been a bit of a prepper. I haven't actually engaged in prepping, but I consume my content such that I know Lex backstage mentioned something like rabbits, right? And I was like, oh, yeah. See, I know you're reading the same prepper forums I am, because that's like the lowest input meat animal that you can farm, right? Because you don't have to pay for feed. They can eat just vegetables and gardens and stuff like that. So
you can throw stuff that you would compost out to them, and yeah,
right, yep. Right. Is that? I know you've been on the same. Could I survive the collapse of democracy forums that I've been on, which are probably getting a lot more traffic these days. All right, let's check out this poll real quick. Yeah, the last week's poll read, are you setting time for healthcare when dealing with news of anti-trans executive actions? With 1.6 thousand votes, 30% said yes, 76% said no, and all of the comments were, this doesn't make any fucking sense. And my reply to all those is, you are absolutely correct. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's supposed to say self-care, not healthcare. And there's no excuse. Sometimes I've made a mistake and people have griefed me for it on this channel, and I've been like, yeah, but I know 98% of you knew exactly what the fuck I was talking about. You're just being pedantic, annoying assholes, because that's the community we fostered here, and we love that about you guys. But this one was just completely, it was 100% just my own stupidity, my own lack. Lux said, I type healthcare a lot. We talk about healthcare a lot here, so it makes sense that they were kind of
And it
mixed
sounds the
in.
same. Like,
It sounds the
I
same.
also, I understood what you meant. So, like, I think that
Right.
if that many people didn't understand what you meant, like, maybe it's just because we do have an audience that has a lot of non-trans people, and I, as a
Mhm.
trans person, heard your message of, "Are you taking care of yourself?" Because
Right.
you're hearing all this bad news about you specifically. That so this question is maybe a little bit abnormal to our normal polls, since it
Mhm.
is mostly directed at a trans audience who is kind of emotionally affected directly by those things, or maybe
Right.
family members, others that are kind of very closely involved. But yeah, I, whatever. It was a mistake. Whatever.
Yep, it happens. But this week's poll makes a lot more sense and says, should hospitals continue administering gender-affirming care to minors in opposition to the executive orders for as long as they're able to? So that poll is going up, a variation of that one in chat, but it means the same thing. So any annoying, pedantic discrepancies between the two, eat my entire ass. But until then, we've got a bunch of callers on the line. Lux, you ready to talk to some callers?
So ready. Wow.
All right, let's start this off easy with the first person who called in, and then maybe we'll try to filter for some spice. But first, we're going to talk to Sean, they, them in Arizona, who says ever since trans folks were banned from women's sports, what are they doing now? Sean, you're live with Arden and Lux. What's going on?
Hey, so I was a theater kid. That's what I do. That was my sport for a bit. I was my sexuality kind of goes into what is to be theater more than what I identify as, but I was straight and I was full-heartedly into theater since freshman year and did not work out. Did not work out for me in theater. So, but since since some since the executive order banning trans women and trans girls from sports, what can they do now? What can they participate in? So since I was part of theater, hoping that I would be able to get a scholarship, but it did not work out. I missed curtain call, and the theater teacher was incredibly infuriated with me. So, but now since Trump's executive order, like a lot of trans athletes, a lot of trans kids who kind of transition or present themselves as a gender other than the ones they were assigned at birth. They're kind of, a lot of trans girls and trans women are kind of screwed over with their aggressions and with their interests. So
Yeah.
they kind of have to go into other fields in order to actually contribute to their high school and college society. And
Yeah. Honestly, Sean, I think that is something that people often miss about the conversation about sports, is that you are not only limiting opportunities to participate among your peers, but it also is like, it is denying trans people educational opportunities because we have this access to education through sports scholarships. So yeah, like there is this kind of question of like, what do these athletes do? And like when they're taken out of their teams, and like, I guess one thing that you can do is like switch to a different sport in a different place. Like there's like adult rugby. I know someone who's a trans woman who plays rugby on a very trans affirming team. Um, that doesn't change the fact that they are being denied the opportunity for legitimate, scholarship opportunities. But and that's, like, what do we do? Well, we kind of are screwed, like, what do we do? Like, I guess I find something else. I guess I join the theater kids, or maybe I join the debate team or pick a different extracurricular and hope that I can find success with that, even though that's not what I'm passionate about. You know, I mean, just I'm putting myself in the mind of an athlete. I'm not the most passionate person about team sports. But yeah, I mean, the answer is like just kind of find something else, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like one of those situations where people will often say something to the effect of, why isn't there just a trans sports league? And it's like, well, that sounds lovely. A sports league without any of you bigoted fucks to make us feel like shit in. However, I don't know if you know this, but there's not a lot of trans people to make enough for like an entire fucking league at any individual sport. Like, finding a trans person who will be willing to play a given sport in an area, already a challenge. Finding enough people to make a league in a specific sport, like, it's absurd that anyone could even suggest something like that, So, I mean, I definitely think if there are like independent agencies and stuff who are able to kind of operate outside the bounds of like some sort of governing athletic body who want to start an inclusive league that includes like everyone, including trans people, I think that could be really cool. But yeah, it's going to be, I feel like we're echoing a lot of the same points since the election, but it's going to be like this for the next 4 years, that we're going to have to do a lot more community focused events and like taking care of our own and really, the community needs to come together and help those people to give them a place to at least feel like they can express themselves and do something fun and engaging without, feeling like a freak on the outskirts of society. So
yeah, my problem is sports are actually fair. You can compete and challenge yourself and get ahead with sports. You can't really do that with other activities. There's something
Sure.
You can with art and music, and you can't, not with my theater department. My theater department theater teacher was less fair than sports. Sports is as fair as it gets, though, compared to like other opportunities for scholarships and activities. So
yeah, I mean, that's kind of why my thing I've been saying about trans sports stuff for the last year or so has been that like a categorical ban on trans people is the problem. If you have some arbitrary criteria that's like, you have to paint your nails red to play on the sports team, and you apply that fairly, then I don't care, how that goes out. You're discriminating against all the people who don't paint their fingernails red. Oh no. But it's like, it's the unilateral cutting us out. If you have some arbitrary criteria and the trans person passes the test, they should be allowed to be on the team. Just like, when it comes to the military ban, like we talk about these trans fighter pilots who underwent like rigorous mental and physical examinations to determine that they were capable of doing this activity. And now the US government is saying, oh, well, you can't because actually it's bad somehow. And it's like, well, they've been tested, though. They've been evaluated at like every level and have found that they are like fit for this and they're good at this. And why would you not let them do it? Sports, I think, is very similar, where it's like, okay, you want to have some arbitrary criteria for who gets to play, fine. Apply that evenly, though. Why are we just banning an entire group of people just because they have a trait when they might otherwise still qualify?
yeah, the reason I wasn't into sports as a kid or like until like very, very late was because I had really severe asthma. So I chose theater as my exercise, as my activity, and I couldn't really get into the military or athletics. I couldn't get into like many running sports and most sports because of my crappy lungs.
Yeah. I'm kind of similar. And I do feel like it's important I also was a theater kid. Just want to say it. I'm loud and I'm proud. And I love to be a theater kid. But like, I think a lot of trans people probably take this view that it's like, well, whatever, I don't play sports anyway. Or, well, whatever, most trans people don't want to play sports anyway. But that doesn't mean that it's any less of, first of all, like literally a human rights violation, but also like it is a severe impact on those individuals and it impacts their future. There was that lady in Florida. There was a young trans woman in high school, and her mother was like basically not disclosing that she was trans or like whatever. There was some whatever, like, oh, apparently she's a teacher in the district and she's hiding information about her daughter's transition, and she's on the sports, and she's like get on her way to being valedictorian and all this, and then like she gets exposed. This teenager gets exposed as trans, and now she's like, I guess I'm just gonna finish high school at home. Like, there's no dignity going to school anymore. Like taking this star pupil who was like the captain on her team, basically, or I don't know, maybe I'm kind of elaborating on it at this point, but I'm just saying, like a very successful young woman whose future has now been severely impacted by this. It's insane, and like I swear to God, there's nothing that activates me more than coming after teenagers and children. I'm like, I'll throw down for this child right now. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Sean. It's dumb, but we know. And it's like people are like, well, we need to give up on this issue because we've lost this issue because people don't actually care about the facts. It's an emotional thing. And it's like, I guess, like I guess we have to leave this now because there's other more serious attacks on our rights happening. But geez, that doesn't mean that it's any less sensical.
Yeah. I do think it's something that can be rectified in time. I mean, you know, with a lot of, you know, social movement, there will often be this sort of like, as progress starts to happen, regressive laws start to get introduced as awareness comes about. And that's the normal path of things, or at least has been in the US for the last 100 years. But we're, you know, the playbook is totally different now. So I don't know if we can assume that trend represents the same thing anymore. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is there, Sean. I mean, I feel you. And similarly, I was a theater kid, you know, not a sports kid. But
I did both.
Right. But I mean, like, if you know, trans kids were banned from like theater, and also Trump just named himself the president of the fucking Kennedy Center, so trans people might be banned from all theater going forward. I don't know if he gets to be the say so of what theater is. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, is there anything else you want to add to that, Sean, before we take our next caller? I feel you. It's fucked up, and you know, yeah, people aren't considering that these are real human people whose like social lives are being upended. Instead, they're just kind of this abstract boogeyman to the Conservative Party.
Yep.
Yeah, there seems to be an actual. You're hinting at an actual trans genocide going on, and that's not good.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, so I was straight, just kind of feminine, and currently now I am thinking of transitioning, but I'm not going through it wholeheartedly though, so it'd be a slow process.
Yeah.
Well, you're at least close to New Mexico. New Mexico is a sanctuary state. I know a trans guy who moved to New Mexico recently. So, you know, you're at least in a place where you can get relatively safe pretty quickly if you do decide to pursue that. It's a decision that we all have to kind of, you know, rattle with right now. You know, got to like think about on it pretty hard, is like, what do I want my documentation to say? What do I want to do with transition? But right. But we are going to probably take our next caller, Sean. Your call is very appreciated. And if you do decide to go through with anything, or if you have any questions in the future of like, how do I access this care? Absolutely feel free to call us back in the future.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I do think the question about a trans genocide is interesting. And it would be, I would like it if someone would, maybe who's like familiar with like the technical definitions, to kind of like bring it up and we can like kind of get into it. Cause I think there's a really strong case for it. Although I know people balk and they're like, you're not being shoved into gas chambers. Like, does that really count as a genocide then?
The only bad thing about talking about this on TACIS is that I don't have, well, I guess I could, can I send you a graphic and you can put it on the screen? Because I'm like, here's the 10 stages of genocide. I can go through each one and substantiate with like at least 3 examples. Like I've done it before. So
Yeah,
we're there.
if you want to send it to me, I would appreciate if someone wants to call in about that. We could make that a whole thing.
Hell yeah.
I think there is yeah. All right. We've got a few other calls, and then we're gonna. Oh well, let's take one more call first, and then maybe we'll do the poll.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to talk to Nick in Washington. He, him pronouns. This seems like an interesting call. Says he recently encountered some outlandish claims by a TERF that were in a film debate. Wants to get a better grounding on the information for the medical standards of care for trans kids. So, Nick, you are live with Arden and Lux. Hey, what's going on?
Arden, hey, Lux. How are you two today?
Hello.
Doing well. Talk to us about what's going on.
Hey, so yeah, I've been a member of the street epistemology community for several years, and I do a street epistemology podcast. And kind of through these connections, I was invited to fly down to Florida last week and participate in a filmed SE-style debate against Mia Hughes. Do you know who this person is?
Not offhand.
No.
Okay. She goes by Crimea River on X. I don't know how prominent she is. I have frankly never known anybody who self-identifies using the term TERF. I always think of it as a slur.
Yeah.
Sure.
But she does. And she is very anti-trans, or she would say she's not anti-trans because she doesn't believe that trans exists.
Right.
And she's specifically on a crusade against WPATH. And so, you know, I feel like I represented fine in the debate, basically based on information I had. I'm pretty ignorant about medical standard of care, and so I would love to be better prepared for some of the, you know, to counter some of the factual evidence that she claimed. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
can I kind of give you like some of the specific claims that she had, and then ask a couple of questions about that?
Yeah.
Can we go
please
one
do.
at a time?
Like
One. Just because I don't want to like miss one.
Yeah, I get bogged down.
If it's okay, if I can give all three of these claims, they kind of dovetail together.
Sure. Okay, that's fine.
So the first thing is that WPATH is like the only organization. They're single-handedly defining the standard of care for trans kids in North America, which I'm really skeptical about, and that they're a radical organization whose views have no basis in science, and that based on this, doctors are pushing prepubescent children to undergo medicalization based on things as innocent as, you know, they're playing with cross-gender toys, like a boy playing with dolls and things like that. So that's kind of like the package of information that I just don't know how close any. I mean, obviously this is outlandish, and I don't really believe it, but I don't know much about WPATH. I don't know if they're the only organization. I don't know if they really have an impact on standard of care. So, what do you know? And I realize I should call in on a week that Dr. Ben is here, but
Yeah, that was a thought that I had. You're right, Nick.
Yeah. You go for it. Go for it.
Sure. I mean, so WPATH is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. So in the same way that the WHO, the World Health Organization, is like a global entity, an international project. And so, yeah, of course, WPATH influences the decisions that are made in the United States regarding insurance and healthcare coverage and what decisions we make on what timeline.
Yep.
And for the record, the WPATH guidelines are still conservative. A lot of trans people are still unhappy with the guidelines that WPATH has given because the panels of people who are deciding this, like, yes, there is a trans woman who's like the head of the organization, but the teams of people that go into doing all this research are not led by transgender individuals. So like, yeah, even the WPATH's approach to this is conservative in a way that trans people often experience friction with. But as far as the claims of like medicalization of children, like, first of all, we don't medicalize anything for prepubescent children. That is entirely counter to how like puberty blockers work. You have to be in Tanner 2. You have to be in a specific stage of puberty. You cannot be prepubescent in order to get puberty blockers. And yeah, it is consistently claimed by, I'm just going to say right-wing conservatives like transphobes or whatever, that, you know, we're pushing this on children at a young age. But in reality, the approach that we take with children is they have consistent contact with medical professionals and mental health professionals. The process is so thorough that we don't even give blockers to children who haven't identified this way, been persistent, consistent, and insistent for like a minimum of 3 years. And
Right.
that's like the entire time you're having conversations with doctors. Like the approach that we take with young people is very conservative. And, even these detransitioners who are talking about, oh, this surgeon just gave me top surgery. Like, well, I happen to know that you shopped around for a surgeon that had a slightly lower requirement. So,
Yeah.
you have to like find the doctor who's willing to go, who's willing to wiggle the rules for you a little bit. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of addressing a couple of your points there, or a couple of the points.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the other people on the anti-trans side of this debate was a detransitioner as well.
Well, who was it? Do you know their name? Wait, can I guess? Was it Chloe Cole?
Her first name is no.
Okay.
No, her first name was Sierra, and she goes by I think it's Excelansic on social media.
Okay, I don't know her.
Yeah.
Or them, or him, whoever this person is. I'm assuming it's a woman because almost all the detransitioners that the conservative right uses are people who are assigned female because they want this notion of the, damsel in distress. Like this poor woman's supple, young, nubile breasts were tainted by the transgender movement. Like that's, the content of most of their concerns. So, yeah, I think a lot of that, everything that Lux said is completely spot on. That, the notion that WPATH is solely responsible for this trans movement is crazy. And I also, there were some good studies that came out of the Journal of the American Medical Association, one middle of last year and one just like a couple weeks ago, that talk about like the rates of access for puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and surgical interventions for gender for minors. And the rates are extraordinarily low. I mean, like absurdly low, to the point where looking at the rates that kids are getting care, and this is out of like the whole, population of children, not like trans kids getting care. It would indicate to me that there is a absence of care, like that a lot of kids who deserve to be getting care aren't getting it. And so the notion that there's some epidemic is just completely unfounded. I mean, this one, I think it says, what is it? 20.81 per 100,000 adolescents assigned female at birth were receiving puberty blockers, 15.22 per 100,000 adolescents for assigned male at birth. So, you would divide 15.22 by 100,000. That's the percentage of all of the assigned male children in the US who are getting access to these puberty blockers. Like it's a vanishingly small percent, something like 0.02 or something absurd like that. Yeah. So it's completely baseless fear mongering. I will say it's not that uncommon to see people self-identify as TERF. It used to be a lot more common. Is it a third wave feminism? I don't remember the waves. Which one is
like
which?
Kind of associated with second wave a little bit.
Second wave feminism,
the political lesbianism kind of thing.
Yes.
Like a little bit similar to that.
It has a lot more to do with this notion of female being like the sex class that is oppressed by males. Like that is like their concept of womanhood in this form of feminism. And there's a lot of like valid, good information to draw from like the second wave feminist movement about like the power dynamics in a patriarchal sexist society. Actually, it's one of my frustrating things with genuine TERFs is that I agree with them on a lot of the like broader strokes points about society. It's that they often get sucked into this notion of like it's absurd to me to think that trans women, people assigned male at birth who identify as women, are what you think is the biggest threat to women's rights in the world right now. Like, that is insane. Even if we remove the fact that, like, abortion is an issue, like, they just made it so, there's concerns about the ability of women to vote if their name doesn't match the name on their birth certificate now, because of executive orders being passed. Like, they've talked about getting rid of no-fault divorce, and abortion is highly criminalized in the US now. Like, these are the issues that are actually affecting women that a real feminist would be concerned about. But it's the, I mean, and J.K. Rowling, it's like, she's the queen of this, right? Of like using progressive sounding feminist language to lull women into supporting like conservative rapist men. It's disgusting and disappointing, but you know, it's not surprising to me. Let me guess, the channel you did this for also, was it Peter Boghossian? Yeah. He's been messaging a lot of people lately. He's trying to get his social media game up, and all he fucking talks about is trans people, because he has framed himself as the god of street epistemology, the sole rational thinker, and the fact is that he's a coward and not a great thinker. And so he has people on his channel to debate for him, to talk about controversial, topics on his behalf. Yeah, I don't like him.
There was one of the things you mentioned about the TERFs. There was one topic that came up that was thought-provoking for me, which is they mentioned they were, of course, the shock value language. They said that trans is homophobic or promotes homophobia, and cited the hypothesis that men who consider themselves trans women are actually homosexual men, but they're transitioning to a woman to avoid the stigma of homosexuality. And that, I mean, I find that patently ridiculous, but
how many years I've been hearing that? Like, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm like 30 and I've been hearing that since I was like a teenager. Like, what?
When did we get those typologies? The 70s, I think, is when those typologies were first defined. It's the HOSTS. If for the audience, people who don't know, this is based on a classification of trans women that was developed like around the 60s or 70s, which asserts that all trans women can be sorted into two categories. The HOSTS, which is what Nick was just describing, the homosexual man who was just so fucking gay that it's easier for him to be a woman, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't make any sense. It's not easier to be a trans woman. It does not make dating necessarily easier at all. It's ridiculous. Or the AGP, which is the autogynephile, someone who is sexually aroused by the thought of themselves as a woman, and so, goes to the UPS store and the grocery store dressed as a woman because that's sexually arousing for them, I guess. Is the idea. It's been like, so just putting any group of humans into a typology is almost always going to inevitably fail. It is like a flawed effort at the start. Those are my thoughts on that.
This particular thing also
she absolutely
ignores
was
a lot of trans women who are asexual or who want to have sex with women. Like, I don't know. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just saying that those were absolutely the talking points. She talked quite a bit about autogynephilia, and exactly those two things. So it's good to know where that came from.
I have to assert this because I forgot to say this just now. If you look at the same traits of autogynephilic trans women, where it's like, oh, well, you're doing this for a sexual reason, that's why you wear women's bras and women's panties. Like, if you study cisgender women and you are looking at the criteria for autogynephilia, cis women are so much more autogynephilic. Like, Billie Eilish literally said within the last year, she was like, I love masturbating in a mirror. Like, I'm like, if a trans woman said that, can you imagine? So women be autogynephilic as hell. And it's like, of course, if you're a woman, you want to be found sexually attractive as a woman. Like, you don't want someone to want you to be all big and muscular and like, really jackhammering away at it. Obviously, that would feel bad if you're a woman. So just because you're trans doesn't mean it's now a pathology that we have to explore. I don't know. Whatever. Sorry.
So I think my only outstanding question, and like you might like point me straight at Ben for this, but how how do organizations in the United States determine what standards of care is? Like what would a doctor in the US or Canada be looking to? What does JAMA look to, or AMA look to?
I
think
mean,
the AMA does a lot of its own research.
yeah,
but like
that's
they
what the
also
JAMA
work
is.
in concert. Yeah, they work in concert with these global organizations like WHO and the WPATH. It's like all of this medical stuff. It's an international community. That's how we end up with vaccines. Like, so I'm sure that there's like some mixture of like the internal studies that they do, and then in collaboration with other organizations, and in collaboration with international organizations as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean,
But Ben probably has a better answer to that question. You're right.
Definitely ask Ben. I mean, I imagine it is like any policy,
it's a scientific
prescription.
Process. Like, to be clear, this is a scientific process. It works the same way that all scientific processes work, which is interdisciplinary and inter-organizational cooperation.
And honing in over time. Like, we've been treating trans people for almost 100 years. It's gotten a lot better over those 100 years.
Yep.
Yeah. But the tactic or the strategy that these people are taking here is they're demonizing WPATH specifically, and using that to say, they're pointing at WPATH and saying, well, WPATH is the problem, and they're asserting, well, Europe has stopped following WPATH, but North America is still following these demonic things, right? And so the strategy is to make it all about WPATH, and then to let that taint everything else.
Yeah, and now there's an epidemic of trans teenagers in the UK committing suicide and being covered up by the NHS because they've been denied this care because they're no longer following WPATH. So we can see in real time how it plays out when you decide to start doing the opposite of what generations of medical research has concluded is the best course of action.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think it's worth pointing out, fuck. Oh man, ADHD. It's done it to me. Man, last few weeks has been rough. I've had a thought and then it's dissipated mid-sentence.
Gee, I can't imagine why.
It's not stressful or anything.
Yeah, brain fog, living in eternal brain fog out here for real. I was going to say, they often will talk about, first of all, I think it's worth, you can kind of go two directions when they start to demonize WPATH. You can first of all talk about, like, France and Australia have released reviews of gender affirming care that found that it was safe and effective, and that, like, there were some reversible elements of it. While the countries who are withdrawing aren't pointing out any flaws with trans healthcare. They're just saying there's not enough evidence, there are potential risks. They're not saying it does X, Y, and Z that's specifically bad, right? So I think for one, you can kind of try maybe appealing to an emotional angle of, like, why are you, engaging in this conspiracy where you think that what the entirety of academia, there's not a single researcher in the whole network of people between WPATH and WHO and the American Medical Association and all these different organizations. There's not a single honest researcher there who found that trans healthcare was effective, and that the people who are saying, well, but it could be, we don't know for sure that it is, but it could be, those are the people we should be listening to. Like, that's just kind of like, I don't know. There's an angle there that you can kind of appeal to, like, this emotional conspiracist crazy kind of thing to frame them that way. I also know they'll talk about, like, the WPATH files, which to my understanding are, like, a few emails exchanged between some, like, higher ups discussing, like, people not knowing the impacts that some of these medications were going to be having. Like, there were some concerns with parents who didn't realize that their kids were going to be infertile or something. And this is something that a lot of these people like to get really upset about. Like, the parents were so upset because they didn't know their kid would be infertile. But I never hear about what the kid thought. Like, maybe the kid was like, thank fucking God I'm infertile. The last thing I ever wanted to do was carry a fucking child. Like, I'm not hearing a lot about that. I'm hearing about the parents from these people talking about these kinds of things, which is their whole angle. They want, they want to frame trans people as not having agency and that it should be a parent's choice kind of thing.
Yeah. So Mia Hughes, this person who is the subject of the debate, she's the author of the WPATH files.
That makes more sense. Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The way these worlds intersect, where I've heard of WPath files, but I can't give enough of a shit to know who Mia fucking Hughes is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually asked around recently some people about what they've heard about it. And it's such a non-issue that I had a hard time finding people who knew anything about it. So like, to me, it's about as content filled as the Twitter files, which is to say, fucking not at all. But yeah, I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts about how you can kind of respond to some of those questions. Was any of that helpful for you, Nick?
That's super helpful. Thank you. Yeah, this is great. And I don't know how much other opportunity I'll get to engage with these people, but like if they may come appear on my podcast, but if we do that, it's going to be street epistemology, so I'm not going to be in debate mode. So this was kind of a rare opportunity for me to go toe to toe with people that in that sort of way, and I just want to make sure if those conversations come up again, like I'm just better prepared with some of this information.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, best of luck. I look forward to. I'll keep my eyes out for it because they asked the line, but when I responded, they didn't respond back. They sent a message to the line, and I was like, "Oh, give that to me. I'm going to respond." And they didn't respond back. I asked clarifying questions, so they don't want a trans person there apparently defending themselves. Just G-trans people on Bogosian's podcast.
Okay. Yeah, it would have been great to have you there. Yeah. In theory, the video is going to drop in April on Bogosian's channel. So.
Yeah. Cool. Nice.
You can look at that.
Right on.
Yep.
You have a good day, Nick.
I'm the oldest fuck fat white guy.
Okay. Gotcha. I'll keep my eyes out for you. I appreciate you showing up though and doing your best to fight for us. Thank you, Nick, for your time. I appreciate you.
I'm trying to be an ally for my NB kids. So.
Right on. That's sick. I appreciate that. You have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye.
That was a good call. I like Nick. I honestly thought that was going to be a little more contentious than it actually ended up being. So that's
I honestly, I don't know that much about street epistemology, but I feel that epistemologists, the kind of people who want to do that, tend to be pretty chill individuals, and you kind of have to.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have to be very measured to be able to hear somebody say something and be like, how confident are you in that?
And not directly respond.
Thing that you just said.
I'm like, I got to debunk things. I'm like, if someone is wrong in real life, it's even more pressing than someone being wrong on the internet.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know. And that's why I don't get along with any of my family. Anyway, we have a poll to read. So this week's poll reads: should hospitals continue administering gender-affirming care to minors in opposition to the executive orders for as long as they are able to? And it looks like chat says 90%, 89%, right as I said that, said yes, 11% said no. I would be curious what the no votes think. I just have a hard time seeing the negative to this. I think, if they're put in a situation where, I specifically added as long as they can to hedge off people who are like, well, what if they can't? Are they just supposed to abandon the rest of the community who's has illnesses and stuff? And I'm always like, no, I want them to do it for as long as they can. And if they have to do, maybe a little under the radar or a little on the side for a while, until it's just impossible to deliver, then yeah, obviously continue doing without delivering it, but don't comply early. It's the same thing we've been telling trans people, don't give up and let them think they've won when they haven't yet. Don't roll over and comply ahead of time. And I know this, I think there's some other organizations that have been doing similar stuff too. So Lux, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I saw somebody who had voted no, was basically like, well, there might be a situation where it risks their medical license and then they can't help people anymore. So that might be one of the reasons why some people are voting that way. Because that's the thing is I can only do what I can do as a doctor, while I have my medical license. So even if I, maybe I would like to try to find ways to help people, but like, I get it. Like, I get it. And it's your job too. Like, that's the thing is like, yeah, I can understand every individual has like their particular reason for, not wanting to jeopardize their mission. Or RAIN, the domestic violence shelter network,
Yep.
they
Yep.
they had some kind of thing where they were like, we're gonna preemptively not serve trans women anymore because of this executive order. And if people are like, well, if RAIN loses its funding, it's gone. It's just gone. So like I understand that to some degree as well, but like there's a part of me that's like fundraise in the community or
Yeah.
take a pay cut or like accept volunteers or something. Like there has to be some other way.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, of course, is like, this is when be gay, do crimes becomes like the thing that is real in the world, right? And like the actions that are being taken by the administration are illegal, and we will kind of work that out over time in the courts, right? But there is like at least some interpretation of the law that says executive orders are law while they're law until there's an injunction of some
Right.
kind.
Sure.
So then, so it's like providing this care could be illegal at the federal level. And then you have states like New York, the Attorney General in New York, who said, if you stop providing care to these children, you are in defiance of New York state law, and there will be consequences. So there's like this conflict between the state law and the federal law as well. And there's like OHSU in Oregon said, we are not making any changes. Like we're just not changing anything about how we provide this care, period.
Yeah.
And like you might lose funding from Medicaid. Maybe you can't work with Medicaid anymore. That's another thing. It's like if you can literally no longer accept Medicaid anymore, that means that you can't provide care to some people who are using it and are relying on the Medicaid to get their care. Again, it's a complex situation, but like, personal opinion is, you don't get anything in fascism by capitulating. You don't get anything
100%.
complying. You don't get anything except they're going to take another mile from you.
Yes, exactly. I especially feel, I think there's a much stronger argument in defense of hospitals maybe ceasing care where they need to, because there is a broader community. And I obviously think that matters. Like, if there's 3 trans people in your community, I feel it's so fucked up to even be having this conversation. This is like the worst game of like, who would you grab in a house fire? But like, if there's 3 trans people in a community and, 20,000 other people, there's one hospital.
Use Medicaid. Yeah.
Right. Like, they have to take care of those people. And that's just a calculation they have to make. And it fucking sucks, but that's just what it is. And
do I think that hospital workers should be fudging records? Do I think that hospital workers should be typing in a different thing on the insurance? Yeah. I think that those things are, but I can understand if like you can't make the statement, we are standing in opposition to this, through many bureaucratic little things, you can continue to fudge things and whatever. But I understand like as an organization needing to make that decision to still be present for domestic violence victims, anybody who uses Medicaid in your community, like, it's everybody has to just make their own choices, and it's so fucking stupid.
It is. I think it's way less defensible when companies like Target pull their Pride merch and stuff like that, because it's like, you are a for-profit company who's making billions, who relies not at all on the federal government. I mean, maybe there's some subsidies for like building in certain areas or something, but like generally speaking, the operations of their business, like the absence or presence of Pride merch, that is just you capitulating to a cultural value from the president. Like that's not something you actually need to do at all.
And the bomb threats.
And, to be fair, and the bomb threats, but
higher security.
Sure, exactly. Right. Like,
God. I can make the Republican argument for doing the opposite of what they're doing right now. Like,
jobs. It's but I don't know. I don't even know exactly how I would offer this. Like, I do want to say, like, for as long as they're able to, I would say probably yes. But I also recognize that as long as they're able to, might not be very long. This is why we need our little like fucking gay communes with a transgender doctor at all of them. Yeah, did Target not pull their Pride stuff? Somebody says I work at Target. What the fuck? I thought I saw that, but I could be studying this
It was in
information.
certain
So
locations.
it's just certain locations, maybe.
Yeah, like in the
Okay.
super blue cities, probably not, but like anywhere that isn't extremely progressive, probably.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate though somebody piping up if I cited something incorrectly. I want to be correct. All right, I did close the lines because we do have full lines, and it is about an hour into the show. I would like to eventually, at some point, be done with the show, but we have lots of callers, and if there's quite a few here that are pretty interesting. So, I don't know who to go. I mean, number 7-3 is interesting. I think 9-5 is interesting. Who are you thinking?
I mean, 7-3's been waiting the longest. We can just go.
Okay. Sure. All right, we've got, hopefully I'm saying this right, Revan. She, her in California wants to talk about the impact of trans medicalism on the broader community. So Revan or Revan, either way, tell me how to say it. You are live with Arden and Lux.
Hello. Yeah, it's Revan, by the way, and it's wonderful to talk to you both.
Thanks. Likewise. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I was just calling in because I've had a lot of it. I live in Los Angeles, and you know, despite it being a relatively safer locale for people like myself, I'm a trans woman. Other non-binary people, it's still there are a lot of threats from within. I think that in the face of the political atmosphere we're dealing with, really concern me. Transmedicalism being one of the biggest ones. I was in a relationship with somebody who I can't take HRT, for example, because of endocrine issues, and I was essentially shamed, belittled, demeaned, intentionally misgendered by that partner for a very long time, based on that fact. And I think that, also she happened to be a very influential model in the fetish and goth industry. So their views on what makes someone legitimate can carry over into, people who otherwise aren't as educated. And it's led to experience of, if you're not doing ABC, then you're not valid. You shouldn't be allowed to use the women's room. You shouldn't be allowed to do this. So that's pretty much what I, that's pretty much, my experience. And I think that when things are crumbling down in society and unity can't be achieved, that's the biggest risk of being able to withstand. What?
Oh,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I don't know if the what was for us or for someone else around you. We didn't say anything yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
so. That
in my experience, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, in my experience, and granted, I have not been to LA, but I have been in an industry with a lot of girls in LA in the past. And I have found that I do feel like there's a lot of trans women who pass really well, who do kind of have this like elitist attitude that kind of are in maybe some of the more blue metropolitan areas. So I think I totally believe that could be a thing. I don't know that when I talk to the broader trans community, I really see an epidemic of transmedicalism. I honestly think we used to have one in like the mid 2010s, and then that kind of fizzled out because they don't really have any argument to stand on, and it was just kind of an appeal to like being one of the good ones for the conservatives. But yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely it's a thing that I see. I'm trying to like find the way to phrase this well. I absolutely see the phenomenon you're talking about, and I absolutely think it's a problem. You're valid, and as a woman, whether you meet certain expectations or not, that those aren't the criteria for being a valid trans person or a valid woman. And I would think that's wrong of them to be shitty trans medicalists? I don't know. Help me out here.
I missed some of the initial part of the explanation because my internet, I think, was weird. Anyway, transmedicalism, generally speaking, like, yeah, I think that the tendency toward transmedicalism is a tendency toward like trying to carve out a place for yourself within the in-group. And so, like, to the extent that this is still happening, and I agree that I think that it used to be more prevalent previously. It was like a very Tumblr kind of sensation that I'm having to the conversation, or I guess like some, it's like a Twitter thing too. But yeah, the impulse is to try to find a way to squeeze yourself in when you see that like they're aiming near you, right? You're like, oh, how can I distance myself from the people you're aiming at? Or how can I pretend that I don't belong to the category of people that you're aiming at? So when you get these like very cis passing people who are very far in their transition, who, you know, maybe all they really even need right now is functionally the equivalent of a birth control pill every day. And those people are experiencing conditional acceptance because they get to move through society for the most part existing as their target gender, and they feel threatened. I think their safety feels threatened by the existence of people who are more visibly trans, and because they're like, I can't hang out with you. I can't hang out with you. People thinking that about you. Like, I know that they're thinking that you're trans, and so they're looking at me wondering if I'm trans, and I don't want to be anywhere near that. So it's like I can kind of understand the fear that is driving that behavior, because that's ultimately, I think, what it is. It's like, I'm just trying to find a way and rationalize it. And people don't know that they're doing this until like later, usually. You look back at your like 20s and you're like, oh, I understand that I was trying to fill a void of some kind. And then you're like, I didn't know that at the time, though. I couldn't have said that at the time. But it's that type of thing where, yeah, these women are just like desperate to disappear, kind of. And they feel threatened by the idea that they can't. And it just results in all this toxic behavior directed sideways at your fellow trans people, which is counterintuitive, obviously, during a time when we need to be building coalition with each other. So, like, honestly, Revan, like, I just wouldn't even talk to these people. I'm like, we have bigger fish to fry. You are not important to me. Like, I don't need you. If you're not going to be like we're building coalition together kind of person, like, I don't need you around me at all, is kind of how I feel. People who are getting into these stupid bullshit discourse arguments on Blue Sky, girl, you're blocked. I don't care if I could be building community with you. You've just told me that you're not going to build community with me by being like that. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Thanks.
If I could just, I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm done.
I just wanted to clarify something. When I was speaking on the on like the issues, I wish, you know, for me, because I am involved in you know, again, the goth fetish community as a professional. For me, it's a lot harder than just turning off my social media. I actually did delete my Instagram, you know, for mental health reasons, which has made it a little bit more difficult for me. But I've observed that in real life, at least here in Los Angeles and surrounding counties, the trickle down, you know, from these people who can pass and are asked about, you know, being trans, they will get, you know, uninformed people. They will give uninformed people this perspective. And then, you know, as to who qualifies, what the barriers to entry are, that kind of thing. And, you know, there is a lot of pressure within, you know, in any kind of closed or semi-closed social group, right? You have this phenomenon where people will try to carve, like you said, like, you know, in groups, and try to, you know, define parameters for inclusion where something should be open to everybody. You see that in the larger, you know, adult industry here in LA too, in certain respects. So I would say that, you know, I'm glad that it's become less of an issue these days, especially online. But, you know, going back to like what's going on politically right now, you know, I think a lot of people who are just starting out, I've been out since 2020, but a lot of people who are just starting out are, you know, going to be, I guess, especially, vulnerable. It's difficult to get into the industry here. It's difficult to make connections, and it makes it all the harder when you have to deal with all that. I'm curious about how you said you were involved before, how you might have navigated that kind of structure.
I mean, I don't know. When I was in the industry, as it were, I really tried to stay in my own lane, kind of do my own thing. I did like personal collabs with people. The few times I worked with like companies, it was because I knew the producer. Hi, Mo. So like, I don't know. I don't feel like I ran into a lot of this stuff because, I mean, probably for one, I hate when I hear other trans women say I passed because it makes me cringe. Like the denoting that you pass yourself feels cringe to me for some reason.
Oh
but
yeah, like you can't give it to yourself.
Yeah.
You can acknowledge it is happening to you, but it's weird if you give it to yourself, like telling yourself that you passed.
Oh no, I totally get what you mean. Like I'm 30 now, but when I was like in my, like I said, when I first came out, I had this like natural, physique that really let me, I guess, pass. And I think that, the woman I was talking about that I lived with for some time, she was like just getting ready for bottom surgery. She was just almost there. And I think there was also a bit of envy that I was able to do that without any augmentation besides makeup and everything else. So there, there's that as well. But I apologize for rambling. I just wanted to bring attention to this issue. All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, well, in regard to the passing thing, to the extent that also maybe gave some privilege or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, the kink, the goth, the adult content community is definitely, I think there is way higher rates for sure of like the trans medicalism in those spaces, just because there's a bigger focus on vanity, right? I mean, it's like,
sure.
And there's like a bit of a kink thing. So, like you're going to get a lot of chasers who have like very pornographic expectations of trans women and things like that. So, yeah, it makes sense that it's worse in that area, but I genuinely don't think it's I think it might be an issue in the kink community that says people are getting bad information from shitty trans people, but I don't think it's quite as much of an issue broadly. And I'll say that, this is just another one of the fun little quirks about being a minority, is that there's not a lot of us. And because of that, a very small percent of us are both a minority and are like experts on all the relevant issues around being a minority to know how to talk on this issue and effectively educate people. So it's like the requirements for giving people good information are like so high. It's like the expectation should almost be that somebody's going to be giving bad information, right? Like that's almost the norm in some sense. But people are also primed for this kind of like, trust what trans people say kind of thing. And it's like, do trust what trans people say, but also acknowledge that some trans people are fucking stupid. And like, that's okay to acknowledge that sometimes trans people don't know what we're talking about.
And there's going to be a diversity of opinions in any group anyway. And you're going to have intelligent people who take from my perspective, the wrong stance sometimes. So, yeah.
And perspective doesn't matter. I'm perfectly fine if someone has their views, and I can respectfully disagree with them as long as they're not like impacting my safety or my life. We have like what I see mostly. Like recently, I was at a dungeon, and security guard. I was in the ladies' room fixing my makeup, and security guard physically like pulled me out, tried to force me into the men's room. It was very, very frightening. But to your point, if you don't have, if you have these individuals who are sort of trying to shape a narrative, in an exclusive community that is mostly based on image, there's no. I think there is a way to counter that by, San Francisco, for example, had a lot of like for-profit venues that discourage like the private social club models that you see often, and that really did help. But that's a completely different topic.
I think the counters to a lot of this stuff are things that we're never going to see in the US. I mean, like, you know, decriminalization of like sex work and things like this to help kind of normalize different bodies and different sexualities and these sorts of things. It would be really helpful, but never going to fucking happen here. Not in the near future.
I think it's a
honestly probably on a pathway to criminalize porn at this. That's like more likely.
Shit. That's true.
That would be very unfortunate. But, you know, like I said, it really rests, I think, on, you know, every time a trans woman, you know, who is a trans medicalist or has these kind of like toxic viewpoints goes in and quote unquote educates others. Like I said, there's a butterfly effect, and then they often, you know, get like posted up on Fox News with like Tucker Carlson as an example of why we should be so scared of these people who are indoctrinating blah 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 blah. And so I do think, like, you know, the societal implications as a whole of people doing this, even outside the kink community, are pretty, because if you act because we're a minority, you know, the onus is on all of us to act respectfully, responsibly, and not cast a light, because unfortunately where we're at currently, you know, it's a discredit to, and one trans person actually is a discredit to our entire community, and it's an opportunity for the right wing to just plaster it up on screens everywhere and scare, you know, the pearl clutchers and the suburban moms and everything about all of it.
I will say, I only want to add this one thing, and then we really do got to move on because we have 4 callers to get to. But I'm hesitant to laden any individual trans person, no matter how ridiculous they are, with being like responsible for what the right does to us. That's my only qualm with kind of what you're getting at there, is that, like, I get what you're saying, and I think there's probably some truth to it. You know, you are, as a minority, there is a certain burden of representing your people, for sure. But that said, the right wing is going to make us look bad no matter what we do, like literally no matter what. So it's hard for me to really fault any individual trans person for getting plastered up on Tucker Carlson, because like he's going to do that. He's going to look for it. For all I know, that person doesn't exist, and Tucker Carlson paid some kid down the road to fake that video. You know, like that is honestly probably almost more likely. But anyway, Revan, we do got to get moving on, but I want to give you a chance to give your last thoughts.
Oh, my last thought was just that this is my first time calling in, and I was expecting it to be a lot more scary. So thank you both. You've both been great. And I hope I can watch you guys again.
Right on. Yeah. Have a nice day, Revan, and we'll talk to you later.
I want to say, before we move on, before we do anything else.
Yeah.
Y'all haven't yet hit the like button. It's a free and easy way to support the show. If you're not subscribed, you know, if you hit the bell, you'll get notified, because we've got so many different great live shows every day almost. And then if you donate, and if you give $5 or more, first of all, we will read your thing out loud. And second of all, if you vote #Team Lux or #Team Arden, we have a whole game we play at the end of the show. And it's going to be fun.
And I don't have those things sorted out yet, but I will pull up my list and have it start giving me.
I mostly wanted to do the like and subscribe, but I realized I was in the middle of a plug, so I might as well continue.
Yeah. Also, actually, this is also a good time to read our schedule for this week real quick. And then we'll take our last 4 callers. So it looks like coming up this Sunday, I don't think we have Who's on the Early show this Sunday sorted. Oh, but tomorrow night at 6 p.m., there will be an episode of Cus I Wanna with Forrest and Dr. Roxanne Feelig. You guys, if you don't know Roxanne, Naya Papaya, you got to get on that. She's fucking awesome. I'm such a fan. I have like a mild like girl crush on her. She's like got her like PhD in social psychology, and psychology was my thing. She does a bunch of research on like feminism and like misogyny and the patriarchy and all these awesome things. So I think she's brilliant. She's really good. And you guys should definitely tune into that tomorrow at 6 p.m. But yeah, then we've got Matt on the early show. Forrest and Seth will be hosting the late show on Sunday at 7 p.m. I don't think we have Skeptalk sorted this week yet. Or probably is sorted. It's just not updated on the schedule because that's how we are as a team. Chewed Gum will be Alyssa and Eve. And then next Wednesday should be Matt and J Mike on the hang up. I know that's not 100% yet, but it's like 98%. And then it's going to be Lux and I again. Same thing here next week.
Yay.
So, tune in.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Same that time channel, ding a dong. All right, we've got 4 callers. So I'm just gonna take an order that came in for the rest of these. I think
That's good.
none of these seem like super urgent, so we're gonna talk to Sam. You from the UK. Pronouns are he/him. Has 2 questions about the fear of being outed as trans in a small town. So Sam, you are live on Transatlantic with Arden and Lux. Talk to us. What's going on?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, how are you two doing?
Pretty good so far.
Yeah. What's
Oh,
going on?
I mean, still breathing under the circumstances, I understand.
That's a win.
Exactly, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, my 2 questions. One of them I think you might have a more succinct answer to, and one of them I think is more sort of broad. So, which one would you prefer?
We can start with the short one.
Sure.
The short one, okay. So, a bit of description. I live in a very small town now. I moved here about 5 years ago. Where, like, I transitioned years ago. I'm a trans man, by the way. I actually called you a couple of months ago asking about he/him lesbians. That was me.
Oh,
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember that call.
Right on.
Yeah, that was me. So yeah, I live in a very small town. There's only about 10,000 people live here. It's a small town in North Wales, and I've noticed there's a trans woman who lives here, who's an older lady. She's absolutely wonderful. We have great chats. Like, everybody knows everybody. That's my main crux of my issue, is everybody knows everybody around here. So I know her and she knows me, but she does not know that I'm trans. But she came out when she was quite a lot older, and so she's an older woman, and I don't know whether to go up to her and say, hey, I know you're trans and I'm trans too. Solidarity.
Yeah.
Would that be, would that be a good thing, or would that be a bad thing to be like, I can tell you're trans? Because that's not very nice. So,
Age-old question.
what would your opinion?
Go for it, Lex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
I've been thinking about this myself recently. Like, I think it feels less bad when another trans person recognizes you, because it's like, you
Yeah.
know, I'm like, we have an eye for it. We know, like, when we are around other trans people, and so, like, I think it feels less bad if it's coming from one of us. And like, how exactly to do that, is
Yeah.
it's a delicate situation. It's like, is there going to be a good time where you'll be able to speak to her? Should you just find a trans flag sticker and like slip it to her when you're handing her something else? Like, I don't know, like, girl, it's you and me. Yeah, it's just kind of, I think it's not a bad thing to do, especially if you're living in a small town and you're like, if one of us gets outed, it would be good to know that we have like at least someone to support. And like, it sounds like at least one of you is like stealth in this situation. Is she stealth? Do you know?
I would say that I'm very stealth. I just look like a little stocky man. But like I say, I think she came out later in life, and so I can tell just by looking and speaking to her that she is trans. But I'd never.
So she doesn't
bring
have
it
the
up
option to
during
go stealth.
conversation. And not necessarily. She wears lovely dresses, but I don't think that she could necessarily go.
Sure.
Stealth.
I think it's
No, I
pretty
don't think so.
powerful in that case then to be like, hey, I can, you're visibly trans and you can't help that. And it might help you to know that you have another trans person in your community, because that is very isolating if you're the only visibly trans person. So having the option of like, knowing someone like, oh, okay. Especially, I think that, currently, if you're in her mind right now, you are a cis man, probably, like, finding out that you are not only not a cis man who can potentially like represent a threat to her, but also that you are a member of her in-group might be really good for her to have, like, just on a mental health basis, being in a small town with you.
Yeah. I feel like I've been in this situation so many times because also I live in Austin, so there's a lot of queer people. And I'm always running into people who I am like 99% sure are trans. But yeah, I always opt to not say something, but I do think that if somebody were to come up to me and say, hey, I just wanted you to know that I'm trans. I noticed you're trans, and I just wanted you to know I love you. I'm family. If you want to be friends, if you need a person, I'm here for you. I think I would probably initially have a bit of a like bad reaction because I mean you're kind of being exposed, but I think it would be quickly subsumed with the like, oh, actually that is really exciting. That is good news. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate it. And I think I'd probably do all of that in my head in like 1 second before I spoke. And so I would like, my response would be positive, but I'm just being honest. Like I totally do think if somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I think you're trans, I would kind of feel like they just punched me in the face just a little bit. But
that's my exact problem. Is like I don't want to just clock someone and be like, I can tell, but
right,
that is that.
It's so hard to avoid that element of addressing it, but it really shouldn't be a problem, right? Like there should be nothing wrong with like looking trans or being visibly trans or not passing, and so there really shouldn't be anything wrong with saying, hey, I think I noticed this. If I'm wrong, then I'm so sorry. No like worries, like no harm meant by it. But yeah, I don't know. There's probably a way to handle that.
Yeah, it's because it's always so difficult because why should being trans or quote unquote looking trans be offensive? It's just a thing. Like, why should that be offensive? But so many people do take it as an offense, and I know she is trans, but to go up to her and say, I can tell, like that, it feels a bit intrusive and a bit rude. And I just wondered how to approach that, you know?
I mean, you can always go with the tactic of just being like, hey, I want to tell you something about myself. And you don't even have to say, because I saw that you are, you know, like if you are like 100% sure you know that she's trans, then you're not really risking anything by just coming out to her. I recognize that you're stealth and you don't want to do that like in a room full of people. But if you're like, if you're privately just like, if you're like, I came out in whatever year and it's been so difficult being in the UK lately. And like you can start the conversation about yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a good method because I think if somebody was in a conversation with me and they started dropping that they were trans, I think I would immediately go, oh, this person's trying to clue me in that they're family and that they like, I feel like, yeah, that would be,
that's different.
Make it super obvious. That is
like
the olive branch.
Stuff that we yeah.
Yeah, the little games we play.
I mean,
Okay, so maybe then the next.
Yeah, what was your next one?
Maybe the next one. Okay, my next one was a bit more broad, but also is about being in a small town. That I've lived, like I say, it's about 10 or 11,000 people live here. It's a very small town in North Wales. I won't mention the name, but it rhymes with Schmollyhead. But I've recently, in the past 12 months or so, I've had friends, but I've recently started going out to pubs, making friends, and things like that. And I've made some really good friends, but going out to pubs or bars or whatever you want to say, everything is so. Pardon me. Hang on. Pardon me. It's so. What's the word? Like on a seesaw. Like if I need to use the toilet, like I've had the trans toilet problem. Like especially with men's rooms. Like I need a wee and I can't use the urinal. And there's no cubicle. Yeah. So.
And sometimes the men's bathroom literally doesn't even have a toilet.
Yes. Or it has a toilet, but it doesn't have a door.
Yeah.
So,
I guess like
you just have to cope with.
Yeah. So what I will say is like I recognize the economy is in a certain kind of not great state right now, but I have and there are many more of stand to pee devices that look like a pee-pee and that work. And
No, I've tried those. Oh yeah, I've tried those.
yeah, and like some of them work better than other ones. But it's like, if it's the only
True.
option that you have, it's either stay home or go out with the boys and like try to figure out something that works in that particular situation. You could always say like, man, I really have to take a fat shit. I know that that's the women's room, but I really need to use it. Like you can lie. That's always an option.
Yes.
Also, I just want to point out that while there's all these like political conversations about bathrooms, my entire life, everywhere I've gone, if someone had to pee and the other gender bathroom was available, nobody has ever given a flying fuck for as long as I've lived. So I genuinely don't think it really should matter. And I think you could go into the women's restroom, pee, and come out and not say anything. And I genuinely think that 90% of people would never even think twice, like
even if somebody sees you in there, just be like, oh, I'm drunk. I'm so sorry. I walked into the wrong one. I'm going to leave now. Bye. I'm sorry. Like it's over in a moment.
Yeah, I do relate to you though, Sam. I grew up in a small town and I remember what being trans in a small town was like, and mine was even smaller than yours somehow. There was like 2,000 people in my town. So it was, everyone knew everyone who knew everyone and everyone was related and it was, gag me. Terrible.
Oh, well, that's it. It's like, when I go to, like, there's, 3 or 4 bars within walking distance of where I live. And literally everybody knows everybody. Everyone will buy each other another drink. Everybody will push each other up to do karaoke or whatever. But when it comes to using the loo, no one else is thinking about that. And I'm like, oh, God, what if I need a wee? Like,
it's
the worst thing in the world.
I will say, I do think that's always way more of a thing for us than anyone else, though. I don't think most, like I said, in my experience, bathrooms are so uncontroversial. In reality, it is like such a fabricated issue. Like, I don't know. I've even feel like I've been waiting in line at a women's restroom and seen a man in line and just nobody cared because everyone was like, I just want to pee and go away. Like, I don't know who this is. It doesn't matter to me. Like, yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you then. Sorry.
You're good.
No, you're fine. We're talking a lot.
No, I'm just saying that's exactly why they should have gender-neutral bathrooms, just so that people can pee and leave.
And a door on the toilet would also be great.
I pointed out last week, somebody chatted, there's a chain of movie theaters here in Texas. I think they're only in Texas, called the Alamo Draft House. They're one of those theaters where you...
sometimes too.
Yeah, you get like a reclining chair and they serve you food. It's like fancy or whatever. And one of them, local to Austin, has this big hallway of cubicles, with a door, but it's co-ed. And there's one long sink. Yeah. And oh my God, believe it or not, I've not heard any reports about this being like a sexual assault magnet. People seem to be able to just shit and piss and leave without it being a problem. Because most people don't care.
That's crazy. That doesn't to propaganda. What are you talking about?
I know. Men and women, trans, not even relevant, pissing and shitting next to each other in harmony. It's like Shambhala out here. Anyway, Sam, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add. I feel like I'm just yapping at this point. We're just having a chat,
Oh no, it's fine. It was just at the back of my mind that I've made these friends that are like absolute lads. I don't know if you get that in America, but like, lads. And
yeah, I mean, I know enough about your culture to understand what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. But they're absolutely lovely blokes. And they're fine with me being gay. They know that I'm gay. I'm actually bi, but they just see me as the gay boy.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But I don't want them to know. Yeah, but I don't want them to know that I'm trans because that's just one step beyond.
I think you should be prepared that if they find out that some of them, it might go poorly. I mean, in my experience, people tend to fall into like a few categories. There's like they are okay with it in theory, but in actuality, you can tell they're not okay with it because they're so awkward around you after they find out. There's the people who you thought were going to be awful, but are actually totally normal and great. And then there's the people who you thought would be great and they are great. And the people who you thought would suck and they do suck. I just kind of go in. I went into coming out, luckily, because I had done it before, but I had expected. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I should expect to lose like probably like some percentage of my friends, but like I'll get other ones. So, you know. But yeah.
Well, that's it. But because I'm stuck in such a small town, and sorry. Oh, there we go. I don't know if my microphone just turned off then.
It did turn off for a second there, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm okay. I'm still here.
You're good.
But
yeah.
my next door neighbor found out, and he was not the kind of person that I would have thought would have been accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I mean, he found out in the fun way. We'll not go into that, but he kept it to himself. He never spoke about it.
I think it's called Grinder.
Oh.
That's my impression of what happened.
Oh no, he's far too straight for Grinder.
Oh, okay.
Or he pretends to be.
I was about to say, you never know.
No,
I've seen a lot of straight men, quote unquote, on Grinder before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, believe me, I've met them.
Yeah.
But that's the point, is those people might have been distant, but my next door neighbor was so respectful and so understanding that I was like, oh, maybe people that I didn't know actually might be okay with this and might just keep it to themselves, but I don't know that everybody else will. So I'm just a bit hesitant on that slipping out, and then everybody finding out and just walking down the street and going, oh, that's that guy that used to be a girl.
So I do think that it's important to, like, you have a very small community. You have people who you're going to end up in the bathroom with at the same time, potentially. And like everybody knows everybody.
Mm-hmm.
One of your neighbors already knows. Like, honestly, it kind of feels to me like these situations are just a ticking time bomb. And that kind of no matter what you do, eventually it is going to get out to people that you don't mean it to. And so I just kind of view these situations as like, you know, you're trying to maintain control over your stealthness, but like you might start premeditating and thinking about taking control of your being outness, because I think that to some degree that is inevitably going to happen. To some degree, it's not necessarily going to be all 5,000 people in your village, but it might be like the 2 people in the bathroom with you at the same time right now, and that can grow. And relying on people's discretion, whether or not they intend to out you, it happens by accident. And so, you know, you might want to be stealth forever, but like it might not be a realistic possibility, or you might want to move to a different small town, or maybe you want to move somewhere where there's more people so that you're not going to be as concerned about, oh God, everybody knows now and everybody's looking at me and everybody's talking about it. But it just feels like, you know, there's only one way for this to end up. And it's like, some people do stealth until they're dead, but you're playing a game the whole time. And it's like, how much do you want to try to play that game every day of your life? I personally don't enjoy it. Like that whole, is somebody going to know? Whatever, whatever. I don't know. And just like,
it is
kind of
almost more stressful in a lot of ways, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I have now.
Oh, Sam, I'm sorry. You just broke up a ton, so we didn't really get any of that sentence. Could you try again?
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I only just started talking. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay,
you're coming through now.
Okay, no, it's all right. It was just that the friends that I have now are really lovely and accepting and welcoming to a degree, but again, they're also lads. So I don't know if they're gonna like spin on a dime and be like, "Oh, but you're like that, are you? So you're not really want like it. It is like you say, it's a ticking time bomb. But I don't know what I do after that.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna accept me, or if one of them is going to say, "Oh, I know this, but I'll keep it a secret," and then they accidentally tells someone else, who tells someone else, who tells someone else. And then
Yeah,
the whole
It's
time,
about having control over the narrative, right? Like that's kind of what I see it as. You have to control when you come out, because otherwise somebody's going to out you. Like look what happened to Lil Nas X. You know, he got outed by another rapper, and then he was like, "I guess I'm out now."
yeah.
yeah, true.
Um,
Which is why I've always been really open about being gay, and they're totally fine with me. But like, I'm not a massive camp, but I'm a little bit camp, and they're okay with that, and
mhm.
they don't care. But
Honestly, I think some straight dudes need more camp in their life. They need
True.
full on queens
Oh.
around them more often.
Yes, 1000%. I've been trying to make them listen to Chapel Roan, and they won't do it.
Indoctrinate. I love that for you. Sam, I do think we want to move on to these next three callers, so I want to give you a chance to give any last thoughts, but yeah.
No worries at all. I haven't got no additional thoughts. I just want to say thank you very much for taking my call, and you've been really, really helpful.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Well, thank you
Sam.
for calling. I appreciate your time, Sam, and best of luck. I relate deeply to the small town experience, so
Oh, if anything bad happens, I'll call you back.
please
Yeah.
do. Give us all the tea. Have a nice day, Sam.
No worries, I will do. Right, have a good day, you two. Right.
Bye.
You too.
I like Sam. Sam's cool.
I like Sam. I love Sam's accent. I know
Me
it's like a little
too.
objectifying to talk about people like that, but I'm like, man, that's a good accent.
It is a really good accent. Although I did feel like, wow, somebody from they're like, oh, my small town in Wales has 10,000 people. And I'm like, check my small town
Well,
energy.
yeah.
You don't even know.
Funny. I'm a city queer compared to you guys. Like I thought that I was from a, like a small
I've
part
always
of a big
been a
city,
city
but
queer at heart.
Okay.
My entire life, I remember I used to tell people that I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm meant to be a city person because
and yet you're sitting here talking to me before the show about having chickens and rabbits.
okay, I like farming, but also I like society. I don't like small town energy because small town energy is like fishing with the dudes where we talk about women's body parts in the worst, most disgusting ways, and
yeah.
that sucks. But a bunch of queers farming chickens together and fishing to feed each other as a community, that is gay energy that I am absolutely here for.
Sure.
Okay, we have three callers. I do have to run to the bathroom, so I'm going to start this one and then let you take this caller. We're going to talk to Eric, he, him in Alabama, who asks, would there be trans people if there was no patriarchal pressure on gender roles? So, Eric, you are live on Transatlantic with Arden and Lux, and I will be right back.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. What's up, Eric? What do you got for us today?
Well, pretty much by prompt. It's something I've been mulling over for a while. I'm someone who I kind of look at myself as someone who is a reformed transphobe, if I'm just going to be honest about it.
Sure.
I held views that were absolutely transphobic in retrospect. I didn't know they were at the time, but I don't really like to use that as an excuse. But for the longest time, I felt that people were simply responding, that people, transgender people were almost like an immune response to the type of pressure that the patriarchy puts on people. And, living within a patriarchal system, you can't express yourself in all of the ways that you might want to. And I ran into that as myself being, a queer guy. I mean, mostly straight. I'm in a straight relationship, so my queerness doesn't really affect my life. But growing up, certainly, I was going through those phases of figuring out who I was, and so I faced a lot of that pressure of you have to do this and you have to present this certain way in order to be the straight guy that you look like. And so I guess my question is, in a world, in sort of a hypothetical world that allows people to express themselves in the way that they would want to be perceived, without the sort of pressure like this is what a man does and this is what a woman does, without those
hardened gender roles, would there be any need for someone to say, I am transgender, given that the way that they want to present would be acceptable under the label that they were born with?
Yeah, I love this question because I love thinking about this hypothetical kind of Star Trek future where people don't really care, and they'll honor your new name and whatever. Like that's kind of the utopia that we're imagining, right? Is like you can dress however you want, you can wear makeup, nobody cares. If you want to change your name, whatever, people will call you by whatever. It's cool. Like to some extent, so I'm gonna echo this with something else that it reminds me of is like the concept of an atheist wouldn't exist if it weren't for the fact that religion exists. You wouldn't have to say I don't believe if it weren't for the fact that believing is so common. So I kind of see the framework in which this is presented as like, if we didn't have all these pressures on us, if we didn't have this hard rule that society tries to teach us of like, this person is this because of the body parts and whatever, would we end up in a situation where people weren't trans? So it's like, is the question like, do people not feel compelled to change? Or is the question like, does the category of trans dissolve? I guess is kind of what when I get what you're asking. Are you wondering if people don't identify as trans anymore, or if people won't feel the need to transition and change their bodies and stuff?
Well, I think that's an interesting aspect of the question that I hadn't really considered until you said that, because, where that question seems to suppose that this hypothetical world is something that we could exist in. Whereas, and I would love that. I absolutely would love if we get to this, like you said, Star Trek. Sorry, that's my go-to utopia as well. So I like you pulling Star Trek there. If we were to achieve that, I think we would still have some sort of historical record and some sort of historical, the history of those gender roles would still be there. And so we'd still have some context of what transgender used to mean, even if we had a place. I guess my question was more, if we had never been enforcing these patriarchal roles, do you think that there would be any need to go outside of the sexual binary that we mostly see? I want to say mostly because I don't want to deny, the existence of intersex people, and but the binary that we mostly see, if that binary wasn't so strictly enforced and so many gender roles were imposed upon it, and a man who wanted to present and feminine traits or present in feminine clothes or feminine in any feminine way that they want was still acceptable under the umbrella of man. Do you think that I guess I'm kind of tying myself in knots here. I apologize. I've never called in before.
No, it's okay. And I presented you with a question that caused you to change the way that you were thinking about your question. So I threw you a curveball.
Yeah, and it was a good way of because I think the way that you're saying is like, if we do achieve that future, I think there's absolutely still transgender people in that future. I think they're just more accepted. I think they still identify as trans. That's my opinion, at least.
Right.
But I wonder, to what extent is the way that we've imposed this rigid binary on society for so long, is that really why we see, and it's not a movement, I don't want to fall into that trap, but we see certainly with the younger generation, there's an increase in people identifying as trans. Do you think that there is that impetus to do so if there's not such a rigid structure in place?
It seems that there is some kind of neurological component to the wanting to change your body stuff that I think would exist even if, we're rewriting history. We're going in a hypothetical where history never had this dichotomy. You're right, though. Like, if we got to a hypothetical future, there would still be a historical concept of what transgender means, even if we don't currently place ourselves in that type of category. So, if there just never was, let's even say, there's never been a binary concept. We describe sex characteristics, but we don't categorize them as male or female, or we don't really call them things that have a distinct social category. I think that, people would probably self-identify in a lot of different ways and self-express in a lot of different ways that would be, first of all, unpredictable, because we would not have, their society would be organized in a completely different way. But I do think that people would still have the urge to change their bodies, and it's just that there would be basically zero social ramifications for doing so, and like zero social um no implications that changing your body means anything about you in a gendered social dynamic, basically. Because it seems like we've been studying this for a long time, and the science on it is like a little bit inconsistent, but it seems as though it has something to do with pathways of estrogen in the brain that like
Mm.
we see correlations of the ways in which these pathways process the hormone information basically. Um, so it seems like there is fundamentally still a biological component to wanting to change your body, but I do agree with you that probably the social role, uh, it would just be functionally meaningless. Like there would just wouldn't be any. I'm a boy and I feel I'm gender fluid. Like you wouldn't have any of those kind of identity labels.
It would be like incoherent almost.
Yeah, it would be like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I think
Right.
it's also interesting. I know Erica Gutsa-Gibbon has pointed out before that there are like some kinds of great apes. I'm going to be general with my language here because I'm not going to get the specific species or details right, but that like inherit. Obviously, they're not inheriting like which tools. It's not in their genetics, but they will use similar tools to people in their group. Like if you have like a colony of chimps A and colony of chimps B, they will use similar tools to their parents generationally. I think that's kind of a good example of the ways in which like behaviors can get sort of reified into a way that seems biological, where they're like always just inherently picking up the same similar tools because that's what's around them, that's what their parents use, that's what the culture uses. And I think when it comes to like this notion of would transness make sense or exist if we lived in this hypothetical alternate universe where gender roles and patriarchy didn't exist, I think we would just have different tools and language to describe similar phenomena. It would just be that those tools don't exist in that world, so it would be it wouldn't make any just reiterating now, it wouldn't even be coherent.
That's an interesting point that we would probably just have we might have entirely different language to describe each other based on the way that we choose to either lean in or lean away from our given sex characteristics, given a world that doesn't have such a magnifying glass on gender like we do right now. I'm also becoming increasingly aware as I say these points out loud, because I don't have anyone to talk to this kind of stuff about. I certainly, being from Alabama, I don't really have, there's not a huge trans community around me. And I'm pretty sure if there are, they're not willing to be as outspoken. And I definitely don't blame them for that, because where I live is a pretty closed-minded place. So I just don't have the avenue to ask these questions. But I realize saying it out loud, it's quite ethnocentric as well, where I'm coming from, because there are places in the world, of course, where the gender binary isn't so strictly enforced. There are places that are more accepting of non-binary and trans people as well. So, a bit of an ethnocentric question that I've asked. But anyway, I was just curious about, because there was a long time where I considered being trans as almost like a reaction to the way that we treat people and the way that we make little boys and girls feel like they have to act, and if you don't do that, is there any need for the transgression? Or
I mean, to a certain extent that's true, but the problem is that it's like, it's not just that you were taught this, it's that many generations of humans have taught a similar collection of things. And so it's like so deeply ingrained in the culture, even if I think you did not teach the kid any of those specific things. If they just grew up in the culture, they would still learn all of those exact same things. You know what I mean? Like the level of depth that it runs into our history is just too far down, too many turtles down.
Yeah,
down to the bones for sure. Yep.
Okay. I really appreciate your responses on this. Like I said, just hearing it out loud made me rethink a lot of things. And then also you made some really good points. So thanks so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for calling us,
happy to help.
Derek.
And like, I just want to acknowledge you have made so much progress. If you're like, I am openly stating that I used to be transphobic, and now you're like, I am asking this question in a very ethnocentric way. That's an incredible amount of like, you just worked through some stuff mentally. And like,
Right.
I just have so much respect for, being able to move from a place mentally where you're like, I have all these things that I was taught, and now I feel that they're not correct, and I'm going to educate myself and like find people to talk to. So I just want to acknowledge that that's like work that you're doing, and that it's appreciated.
I really appreciate that. Having kids and going to therapy is a hell of a drug. So
yes, go to therapy, men. You heard right here. Okay, thank you.
Yes, go to therapy if you need it. Okay, thanks.
Good stuff.
Right
Thank you,
on.
Eric.
Thanks, Derek. I do love that hypothetical. It is an interesting one.
It is fun. Yeah, and it is because like I typically think of it as like, okay, a hypothetical future from where we are now. But it is a different proposition to be like a alternate universe where this never was this way. And like, the way that we do society would be incomprehensible to those people.
It's also like, I don't even know if we would be human if we didn't do that, because humans are so prone to seeing patterns and putting things into group based on those patterns that, like, it's just a fact that men and women tend to also be males and females at like a pretty strong rate. So I think it's a fair pattern for humans to see and to acknowledge. But it's just a matter of like thinking that means that has to be the case for every individual, or it becomes a problem.
And that we're going to structure society around it.
Right.
It's one thing to acknowledge it and one thing to label it. It's another to like organize your society around it, which we have done.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I am gonna take this next caller, and then actually,
do we
let me
have
put up
the list of punishments?
Yes. I was just gonna say I actually have my list. Let me put them up. So here are our proposed. Shut down. Feel free to veto any that you're like not so sure about that one, Chief. Maybe using the word chief. Speaking of
like
unaware ethnocentrism. What should the loser defend? Presidential debates should be dance battles. Feudal meme lords will rule the apocalypse. And Dave and Buster's tokens should be valid U.S. currency.
I mean, I'm okay with any of those. So
okay, all right.
I'm happy.
Starting that poll. There you go.
Remember to get your votes in. $5 super chats, #Team Arden, #Team Lux. If you don't put the hashtag, your vote doesn't count.
No hashtag, no vote. Okay. We've got, I think it's going to be Jera here, or Yura maybe. I know sometimes those J's can be Y's. Him from Finland, who wants to talk about, H is too. I didn't even think about that. I want to talk about how, Finland and Sweden often get brought up, like by callers like Jacob, in reference to the laws they're passing for trans healthcare for minors. So he wants to talk about the topic. So you are live with Arden and Lux. Tell us how to say your name correctly. Hello?
You have to tap your phone screen and make it wake up, or we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on
There you
my
go.
phone. I just forgot to put on my microphone on my headset. So
No worries.
No worries.
We got you now. How do we say your name correctly?
yeah, you can imagine the first half of the name Jeremiah.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
because the easiest way to say it is just to think of the word Jerry and use that.
Okay, great. Awesome. So what do you want to talk about with regard to these, like the Swedish protocol or whatever?
Well, the Finnish protocol in my case, since I'm from Finland, so that's the one I'm most familiar with. First, I want to say something. Finnish language is completely gender neutral. I might accidentally screw up with some pronouns. It happens to Finns all the time. Since I have to make like conscious effort to translate things correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand. No worries.
Yeah. So we essentially in Finland have the person who made the whole minors trans healthcare clinic. We have 2 clinics, and one of the founders is essentially one of the most high-profile transphobes in the world. She's been appearing a lot in the US and has ties to many anti-trans organizations. Actually something that she brings up all the classics, or she has historically brought up all the classics that many anti-trans organizations bring up, such as AGI and then the 80% resistance for trans minors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually something that is brought up very often when the gender affirming care is talked critically in Finnish media. Let's say Finnish media is pretty conservative in general when it comes to social situations as well, but or social topics. But anytime, or I think even international organizations have occasionally bring her up, since she has so much influence inside of Finland and, of course, then outside as well.
Yep. So is there a question underlying there, or a deeper point you're going to get to? I mean, it sounds like we're just getting context so far.
Yeah, sorry. I don't think I had any kind of question. It's just something that, since I've been following your podcast or your channel for quite a while, and it's brought up so often, and I'm kind of irked since nobody ever seems to address it. It's just practically hand waved away.
Yeah. I mean, it is so interesting too that such a prominent in the US, I feel like Finland and Sweden often get represented as sort of these progressive bastions. So it's interesting that you say that Finnish media is actually pretty conservative on social topics. I mean, Jacob, who called last week here, using the Finnish and Swedish protocol on trans healthcare as an argument, that is essentially his argument, that he's a real progressive in that the most progressive countries in the world, like Sweden, use the approach that he wants, and so therefore he's right. So yeah, that's really interesting that you point that out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's partially the problem of having the political compass being just like two-dimensional, since we are quite progressive when it comes to some social issues such as healthcare and progressive taxation and things like that. But on the other hand, then these kinds of divisive topics, just such as homosexuality, we're quite accepting in some parts, but then those that are less, or let's say those that are not larger cities, they are much more conservative when it comes to social topics such as homosexuality, and even more when it comes to transgender issues. So I think that's kind of the illusion that having the social compass be what it is causes.
Yeah, and just because you were progressive in the 70s doesn't mean that you're still at the leading, I know like Sweden and Finland have a very good medical system in general, like that. But it's like, if there's any damning statement on your country when it comes to trans healthcare, is that none of us are recommending anybody move there. Like when we're like all these trans people are like trying to find somewhere safer, and nobody's like, you know where we should go? Finland. Like, not because you don't have a beautiful country, not because you don't have wonderful social services, but because specifically the way that you guys do trans care sucks. And it's like, you guys have a national healthcare system, which means that you either get it the way that sucks, or you pay like at least as much as you would in the US for it. Like, all right, cool. I don't get paid enough for that. I literally don't have a budget for health insurance in this country because most people don't need to pay for private healthcare. Yeah. And for someone to, it's like, it's known that this woman is like transphobic who's in charge of the clinic, and yet somehow we're pointing to her as an expert, and like the Cass review, like Hillary Cass fraternizing with explicitly anti-trans people, and yet we're considering her a non-biased source for telling us how to treat trans kids. Like, God, it's like insulting to my intelligence. It's frustrating.
Yes, she was actually one of the people that was cited quite a lot, I think, in the Cass review.
Awesome.
No surprise.
And yeah, at one point when I was studying about a little bit about her, since the topic was something that I was interested in, I think there was an old interview where she said that she never wanted to be the one who was finding the clinic. It was just an opportunity for her to advance her career. So she found it and then found herself being in a very influential position, and then she's been, very vocal about the stuff ever since then. Since
that is information I didn't have before.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It really changes. Yeah, it's like that people are ending up in charge of an entire wing of healthcare that they don't know anything about, they don't care about, and they don't like the people that they're serving, but they're like, well, it was a good career move. I'm in a managerial position now, and I wasn't before. Like, holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, she has publicly said something like she believes that only 2 to 5% of transgender people are actually transgender, and the rest are, everything from autogenophilia to just, as you said earlier in the episode, something about super queer homosexuals or something like that.
Yeah.
You think she had to use one hand or two to pull that number out of her ass? The 5% are real trans people? Come on.
I think it's more like just she has her own idea what's acceptable, and she, instead of looking at the data or trying to accept that people are just different, she only accepts those who fit those very narrow criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's also worth pointing out to people, anyone in the audience who doesn't know, I know earlier Jera mentioned the desistance myth. It's a good opportunity to do some myth busting on things like that. The 80% of trans people will not go on to be trans thing is something that you'll hear a lot. They'll say something 80 to 85. Some will say 90 plus. This comes from a study that sourced data from a clinic in Canada and one in Sweden as well. I think maybe in one of the iterations of the study, where it was a gender clinic period. Parents brought their kids to the gender clinic when they thought they had a reason to, which could be as small as playing with dolls, like a boy playing with dolls. But that is in no way what trans people or any of the professionals are saying should be the diagnostic criteria for trans people. These studies saw all these people who, agreed to participate in the study and were attending this clinic, it made those determinations, those figures, 80% will desist based on that, which means the participants in the study weren't being diagnosed for gender dysphoria as a criteria to participate in the study about being represented as a trans person, right? Nowadays, the standards for study, you wouldn't get it through a review board if you didn't make sure that those people had received some sort of diagnosis of gender dysphoria or something before being counted as a part of that group. Because you have to make sure that the data is, I always get precise and accurate confused. I think accurate is what I'm looking for, the one where it's like actually describing the concept it's talking about, like it's accurately representing that group. And when you actually account for kids who get gender identity diagnoses, the vast majority of them persist with their identity and go on to receive gender affirming care and continue their identity into adulthood. So it is like an old myth in the trans community that will not die, just like autogynephilia and HSDS.
Yeah, it's actually something that I think Sweden might have had. If there was a Swedish study, I know only about the ones from Canada about the myths, but even in the 90s here in Finland, we had very, very low bars for people being sent to specialists for all kinds of stuff. Since, for example, I've always been a little bit of ambidextrous, and I was sent to a specialist because my kindergarten teachers during 90s, early 90s, they sent me to a specialist since they noticed that I use right hand for some things and left hand for others, and they wanted to have me tested. So, in a sense, I would be in if that was, for example, childhood development was followed in the same way by a study, I would be in those studies. Yeah, so that's essentially the same. If I would have been playing with dolls, I might be in a study about
like you just got referred to a specialist. Right. And exactly. And that's the thing that bothers me about that 80%, because, and it's, they speak out of both sides of their mouth when they say this. They're like, oh, 80% of these kids don't even persistently identify as trans. But then on the other hand, they'll say, oh my God, 100% of the kids who go on puberty blockers go on to have cross-sex hormones. That's a bad thing. You can't start. But it means that the system is working as intended. And as you said earlier in the, way earlier in the call, Arden, like this means that actually fewer people are getting the care than need it. Because only like a very small number of people, and we are rigorously determining that those are trans. So 80% getting weeded out and know they're not really trans, that's the system working as it's intended to do, only letting in those who we're like 103% sure are going to be persistent into adulthood. So it's, annoying.
For sure.
Yeah, well, that's essentially the thing that I wanted to talk about, since I hear that so often and I never hear it addressed. So it was something that I thought I'd like to have a word about.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling. It is interesting, and I'd be curious if there's somebody watching in Finland or Sweden who's a part of the medical system who also wants to contribute to this conversation. I would love to hear, because I don't get Swedish or Finnish news. I don't have time to like research it, but I'd be curious to know what like solicitors or lawyers or whoever was involved in making some of these like policy decisions, like how those conversations went. If anyone has some insight or info, would love you to spill the tea. So thank you, Jara, for calling. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and thank you for having the show.
Awesome. Our pleasure.
Having me in the show as well.
Yep. You have a good day, Jara. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Or late night, I suppose. I think it's
8 o'clock, or like something 8 or 9 o'clock there. Yeah. Sleep well.
Alrighty. There was another caller on the line, but they dropped, so we are out of calls. So let me close out our call-in system here real quick.
All right, guys. The show is long. It happens.
Show's long. Yeah, I know. I do feel bad for people who wait for so long on the lines, but I'm also like, if you watched for long enough to decide to call in, you probably know what you're getting yourself into. And if we had more contentious callers, I would bump them up in the queue. I'm not going to give you complete priority like we do theists on the other shows, but you'll definitely get a huge bump in the queue. But we don't have straight up haters that much anymore. I think I've yelled at all of them and they're like, I don't want to talk to her. She's mean. She's big mean to me. She called me stupid.
Yeah, I know. So sad.
All right. We have super chats. Any super chat of $5 or more, we will read out live, and then you can vote to give us points. Let me get our little scoreboard up here. Da-da-da. You
I
want to
finally got some stuff on my wall, and I'm like enjoying the fact that my set isn't a gross green bare wall anymore. Yes.
You don't like just having an empty room for your set?
I know, green, like a gross green color. I don't even. Wait. Anyway. Thank you for the £5 from Sean Isherwood. Says, oh my God, given natural n being greater than 0, there are infinitely many prime numbers p such that p plus 1 has at least n distinct prime factors. And b, I can't watch live. Okay, well, you're not even here to make me say math things. Thank you for your donation. I appreciate it. I understood none of what I just said.
Also, I don't know why non-binary I can't watch live. What that is, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't know.
Another 5 from Sean Isherwood. Next week, it'll be about a year since I heard a voice. My schizophrenia is on its knees. Oh, that's cool. It should be time to go do a gender identity clinic soon, too. I'm cis/NB. I don't know. Right on. I'm so happy for you.
Symptoms under control, always a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially if that's what your goal is with your provider. I think that's great. I'm glad you're hitting your marks.
Hell yeah. $10 from Pibblepunk, half dog, half canine. Solid. Thank you very much. Says, I'll be renewing my passport and saving up as much cash as I can just in case. My biggest worry is going to be access to meds. Yeah, I mean, and he just came out swinging against like my amphetamines. So I'm like, I'm not going to take it today so that I will have some later because I don't know if we're going to lose access. It's like, yeah, we're worried about all kinds of different access to care right now. And just being trans is just one aspect of that. It sucks.
Yeah, I was talking to my sibling about this, and they were talking about how they actually went off their antidepressant because they were a little bit worried about how long they're going to have access to it. And so they've been kind of like weaning off just so that way if, something happens, it's not quite so traumatizing to just stop taking medication. I'm on an antidepressant, an ADHD thing, and I take caffeine pills because I'm that hardcore. Yeah, it would suck to lose all that shit. Oh my God.
But chemistry is a skill that anyone can acquire.
Hey, bathtub insulin. I remember that discussion on Twitter. That was a thing. 20 pounds from Jackie Greenland just shared a ski lift with a MAGA who wanted my opinion on all the European dictators. He didn't like me saying it was bullshit. The ride ended before I got the chance to trigger him by saying I was trans. #fun times. #team Arden. Yeah, that's interesting. Being trapped on a ski lift with a MAGA is like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, not a fun time. But I mean, it seemed like it was fun for you. You said #fun times and you were looking forward to triggering him by coming out as trans. So I'm glad that you felt confident in that moment.
For real. Ugh.
$5 from Nethercat. Thank you for your dono. Says trans kids get barred from sports. They join. Oh, trans kid gets barred from sports, joins debate team, learns debate, goes into politics, uses position to lift bans and create protections. We all win. It's a success story.
Except for...
I don't want to put the onus on that kid, but when,
I was going to say, the only thing I hate is that, that kid was like, oh, let me go do something great for the community. I love it. Beautiful story. But also, there's a sad story in there where this person abandoned their actual dreams and interests so that future generations wouldn't have to. Like, fuck that. $10 from Sentient Tree. I was saved from being a younger creationist into adulthood by having awesome older siblings. One of them cracked their egg after leaving the house. More people should just talk to trans folks. #team cats.
True.
I mean, I guess. Cats. Yeah, I was gonna say we all have.
Is that a null vote?
Yeah, it's just a null vote.
Vote for nobody. Yeah.
I mean, it's a vote for cats, I guess. I'll tell Daphne she got a vote.
Yeah. If I have to get my cat, I'm going to have to go to my bedroom, I think, and acquire him because he's sleeping on my bed. $5. Thank you, Heathen Granny. Says, the McNazi just banned trans girls from girls' sports as he takes away girls' rights as well, and J.K. Rowling is cheering on the rapist president. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. Like, TERFism, it's not even about hating men. It's about hating trans people because they're more than happy to buddy up with men if it means hurting trans people, and they're also willing to buddy up to men who are fucking over women and like regular old women's issues. They're willing to lose the right to abortion if it means screwing over trans people.
Yeah, let's work with misogynist, fucking like credibly accused sexual assaulters, because anything is better than allowing trans people to live their life unencumbered by your bigotry. How dare trans people want freedom? $20 from David Haxer. Thanks. Thank you.
€5 from Jonathan Brockett says, would you consider reaching out to Jordan from Dead Domain to be a host here? They normally do investigative journalism, but I'd love to see them on here. I am familiar with Dead Domain. Jordan is super cool. I don't know where we're at right now with getting new people on. It's like, okay, having another non-binary person on, solid. Having another white trans person on, we are debating whether that's a good idea. So it's a good call. It's a good call. And Jordan, like, hypothetically, is in the same time zone as me. So that could be cool.
Yeah.
Maybe as a guest one time. We'll see.
Yeah. Always welcome to have people on as guests. I will say we are at a weird intersection where I don't want to tokenize anyone, but also I would really like TACIS to represent our community well, and I think having more trans people of color would be a better service to that, and so I would like the next host to not be white. But it's also, I don't know. I've told the story before. I don't need to tell it again. I'm just gonna. We've asked people before, and we've gotten no's. That's all I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
$5 from Jason Jones. Screw the horrid old hag across the pond. I hope Stephen King puts Pennywise on her. Tim Curry Pennywise, not the one you can pick on. Hashtag. Nice.
Good stuff. $5 from Melatonin Ale says that mid-sentence lost thought is too real. I lost my ADHD meds and it's been horrible since I have to wait for a new prescription. No! Okay, hashtag Team Arden, that's great. No, I hate that. I've had that happen before. Oh no, what happened to me is I left my pills in the car and it was hot outside. And so I ruined a batch of pills and they won't let you get new ones. Oh my God, that's the worst. I'm so sorry.
It's so wild that they don't account for people with ADHD doing ADHD things.
The disability that you have. Anyway.
Sorry, we can't let you have medication because you could be abusing them. It is more likely that you just have the disability that you're getting medication for, but, you
could be addicted. Meanwhile, I'm forgetting to take them.
Right. 5 Canadian dollarinos from Siobhan says, I am fundraising for trans medical care for those who find themselves cut off. Hashtag Team Lux. Let's show them we will not be erased or bullied. Yeah, I would really love to see some of the like trans celebrities working on like a surgery fund or something, since everything's going to be, anything that does happen is going to be out of pocket. It'd be cool to have people being like, oh yeah, like we'll, do some sort of criteria to evaluate people, but like sponsor some people. It'd be really cool.
Yeah. $5 from Aliashana Silverbow says, what does Captain America say when he wants an orchestra? Avengers Ensemble. Hashtag musician and Marvel team up joke. Hashtag Team Arden. Hashtag not betraying Arden this week. All right, fair enough.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Avengers Ensemble.
True.
£5 from Sean Isherwood. There is no set of all sets. Russell's paradox arises otherwise. Mix a set S and consider it the subset of all X in S, such that X is not an element of X. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about set theory. When you put it in philosophical language with, fill in X's in the abstract, I can't keep that in my brain for writing. But when I'm thinking about like Venn diagrams and circles, then I can follow. My brain can understand how you can't have a circle within a circle, but not within a circle. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
I'm like no thoughts, head completely empty for all of that. Yeah.
Got a little tumbleweed rolling across.
Yeah. Literally, yeah, like you can hear the whistle in the background. $50 from Bobtail Trucker. Thank you so much. That's extremely generous. Thank you. Like button acquired. Through.
So glad you acquired it. Anyone else who wants to acquire the like button, you should do it. It's free. You don't have to spend $50, and it helps the show a lot. So do that.
Yes.
$10 from Jamnico6. Thor lied about his name before making love to Immortal. Later, he felt guilty and admitted, I am Thor. Immortal replied, you think you're Thor? I can hardly fit down. Marvel, I joke for Aliashana. That's pretty good. Honestly, you got me. I didn't realize it until I said fit down what was going on. So
yeah, that's good. Thank you for the $9.99 from JW Edgy. Says, damn it, I'm late to the show again. Welcome back, Moss. Is Patreon, YouTube membership, or Super Chat the best way to support if I have to choose one? IDK how to Patreon, but I'm sure I could learn. About the structure. But if you want to directly support the two people who are on the show at that given time, then a Super Chat is the best way. Otherwise, everything kind of gets split up between everybody.
Yeah.
That's basically the only difference.
Exactly.
Patreon, YouTube takes a bigger cut than Patreon does.
Yes.
So YouTube, you'll pay more fees through YouTube.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can consider supporting hosts individually on whatever independent methods they do that. You can, like Lux said, super chats for the episode 2 hosts are on will help those 2 hosts. Because they get a cut of the episodes that they're on. But generally speaking, Patreon goes to all of us and YouTube takes a smaller cut of that. So, YouTube takes a bigger cut than Patreon does. So I usually direct people towards Patreon because then it helps everyone. And if all of the hosts are doing well, we're able to do more stuff. So it's kind of like a rising tide helps all ships, even though I can't lie. I want you to put money in my pocket. Yes, collective help is better. So.
And Patreon helps with production too. Like producers don't get like the cut the same way that hosts do. So, that's kind of how it works.
We get a smaller cut. But fun thing is when I host and produce, because then technically I'm getting a slightly larger cut. Just slightly.
That's why you do it.
that is part of why I do it. People are like, wow, you're doing 2 shows in a row? And I'm like, yeah, I am.
I'm making that money.
I got bills to pay. $20 from Bobtail Trucker. I got them to read my thingy. # Arden. Thank you.
Another $20 from Bobtail Trucker said, I got them to read my thingy. # Lux.
Nice.
That was well choreographed. I don't know that it was intentionally, but it was good.
$10 from David Haxer. # Team Luxander. Same bat time, same bat channel.
This is an old reference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like a Batman TV show, and it was like same bat time, same bat channel, and that they would.
Thought we were just standing bats. I was going to be like, I love bats. Time. Bats are great.
I love them, and also stay away from me because you are disease vectors.
They're so cute. Look at their little faces. They look like little puppy dogs.
I don't know whose turn it is. Is it my turn?
I think it's your turn.
50 Australian, thank you for the generous donation from Tammy B. Says, I'd love to see Arden or Lux host with R and Ra, sharing ideas for phylogenetics and trans issues together to see what comes to light. Tell Jimmy that I would like to be on a show that isn't this one also. It's like, I'm available. You just got to show that there's demand for Luxander slamming Christians' ideologies into the ground or whatever. Or phylogenetics, whatever this topic is.
Yeah, maybe we could do it. We work out a Skeptalk or something. I'm not really sure how I see how phylogenetics relates to trans people, because that's like categorizing all life, and trans is like really an individual person thing. But
yeah,
maybe there's something there that I am not seeing.
Could be fun.
$50. Wow, you guys are being crazy generous today. Yeah, from Skeptoidius. I just recently started teaching myself how to use Windows Server 2025. Plus, I finally started streaming on Twitch. Oh, congrats. So that's been fun. Also, I found out I had sex with a trans man long before I got engaged, and I couldn't care less. Nice.
Interesting. I feel like that happens less often. Like, I had sex with a trans man, and I didn't know about it. I don't know. That's cool, though.
I was guessing that this was, like, before they transitioned. Like, you just found out somebody you've been with before is a trans man now.
Oh, and then you're like, haha, retrospectively, I'm kind of, yeah, I get it. I've done that joke before.
I think that's what's going on, but I could be wrong.
Thank you for this, bro. Claps in charge of X made him a supervisor. # Marvel joke for Jamnik. # Magneto was right. # Team Arden. Magneto was right. I'll throw down over that position.
True.
I need to go back and watch those movies again, like this Sir Ian McKellen. I feel like I would appreciate them so much more now than when I was a kid. Did you watch
X-Men 97 on Disney Plus?
No, I need to get Disney Plus this week because I'm supposed to watch Andor for a podcast, but I don't actually have Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're like making sharing stuff really hard now, but I love X-Men 97 on Disney Plus, and they just released a new Spider-Man show that just came. Yeah, well, there was an X-Men 97 cartoon that they just kind of like continued.
Okay, gotcha.
They like picked up where that show left off, but also I just started watching the new Spider-Man show on Disney Plus, and it's so good. The animation, beautiful. I love it's.
Oh.
They do such a good job of capturing the comic book feel with like 3D models. I love it. It's a really cool style that's taken off. Anyway, $5 from Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. I don't know about North Wales, but I know Aberystwyth in Mid Wales has a monthly trans brunch on the first of each month, sometimes the first Sunday. Nice. I don't know how large
That's
Wales
cool.
is to
It's so
traverse,
small.
but I thought so.
It's
Yeah.
small. Yeah.
Um,
And they've got public transit there. Just hop on the train or whatever.
tiny little island. You got a 10,000 person town, and that's the small town there. Island is very populated.
Is Wales? I don't know. Wales Island.
Isn't Wales
Is
the
it an
little
island?
island off the coast?
Oh, it has many islands. Okay, cool.
Oh,
It
okay.
is comprised of numerous islands. Got it. Nice. I love having Google at my disposal at all times.
It is great. I don't have to have any thoughts in my head. The apocalypse
Yeah.
is going to be brutal. I'm gonna have to get a virtual library before the apocalypse. That way, when I don't know things, I can be like, do library status, but at least I can figure it out. You know.
Keeping ourselves entertained. Just yesterday, my partner and I were sitting on the living room floor, and we were like throwing playing cards. Like you can like frisbee them across the room, and we were like trying to get them into a box. Like, yeah, I'm like, we're set. If the apocalypse happens, we will be able to keep ourselves entertained.
I can throw cards all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we were like, oh, that one landed on top of the box. Like, silly shit like that. $5 from Melatonology.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like, I don't know whose turn it is. I'm cis white. A peer at work told me she is trans because I had a pride pin and a pronoun pin on my lanyard. She brought it up on her own. #team Arden. That is what I often recommend to people, is like finding a way to like open the opportunity for someone else to come out. In the case of Sam, he is stealth. And so he can't just wear a pin like without potentially outing himself. So it would be like, I need to like tell you in private kind of thing. But that is a really good, especially as an ally, to put the lanyard or the pin or whatever, like state in some subtle way that you're an ally. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We Matt and I wear pins at our like reptile expos and stuff. And I specifically had somebody who stopped and talked to me for like 10 minutes. Be like, oh, I stopped here, by the way, because you guys are like, you're my people, so I appreciate you.
Hell yeah.
I was like, oh, thanks. All right, we got $5 from Janico6. What would you get if you crossed Captain America with Hulk? Star Spangled Banner. Nice. .us. #Marvel pun off. #Hulk smash Aliana. #Team Mitternacht. Nice.
I'm gonna go find him. He's been summoned. I'm gonna go find him.
He's been summoned. I'll read the next one in the meantime. $5 from Bobtailed Trucker. Most thinks are irrelevant until someone says something about it to raise thought about it. I think I probably generally have an idea in that sentence there. Those are definitely words. Another 5 from Melatonin Ally. Instead of trans bathroom bills, can we just get a bill to close the fucking gaps in the bathroom stall doors? Those gaps are the real enemy. Wow, look at this handsome boy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was asleep. I'm so mean. Am I so mean? Oh, poor baby.
Look at him just nuzzle right into you, though. Oh,
he's like, please put me down. It used to be that when he would nuzzle me, I would put him down immediately. So now he thinks that's the trick to get down. But no.
Like, I love you, I promise. Please leave me alone.
Yeah, like, please stop. I hate this so much.
I'll reaffirm you if that's what you need, I promise. Yeah, but anyway. Yes, I just read this one. So next one, here we go.
$5 from DaCosta says, woke up to Sam's call. I still think about the toilets in the Japanese airports. They had bidets with heated seats and fully enclosed cubicles. #Team Lux. I know. The rest of the world is so far behind on the bathroom, or sorry, the rest of the world is so far ahead on the bathrooms thing. Like, why is it in the US that all of our bathrooms have like an inch gap in the door and segregated by sex and stuff? It's just stupid. I know you.
And why are we rubbing paper on our buttholes to remove poop? That's disgusting. Use a fucking bidet. Yeah? Use water, please. Goddamn, your butthole is crusty. $5 from Bobtail Trucker. We need to mandate restrooms.
My new band name. Rusty Butthole.
Rusty Butthole. To any single stalls. There is no need to segregate which bathroom will accept which type of human. #Lux.
True.
True.
covered in cat hair now. It happens.
Right.
$10 from Skeptoidius. Thank you again. You know what words are fun to say? Oh no. Oh no. It's like, I don't, bum cheese? Okay, that's bum cheese. Fuckery, okay? Bum cheese and fuckery. Okay, yes, fuckery can be used in a sentence. Took me a second to read through the letters being used, or numbers being used instead of letters. Hashtag Dragon Rider It's. Is that me?
I think that's you. You've got the dragon motif, the its pronouns. I think that's you.
I'll take that one.
We have so many super chats today. I keep thinking we're almost past this first page, and then we keep having more. And I'm like, I'm in the same place. How is that possible? Because a bunch more came in. You guys are being very generous today. Thank you. $10 from Alicia on a silver bow. Cyclops asks Jean Grey, how do you spell Hawaii? Jean bites her lip and says, well, you need 2 eyes. Cyclops puts his pen down and says, my life is just a joke to you, isn't it? Hashtag X-Men, hashtag Team Arden. I love that.
Savage. I like that one.
That would be really funny in like a cartoon.
Mm-hmm. It's like, am I a joke to you? Am I a joke to you, Jane?
Is my life a joke to you?
Yeah. Thank you for the $5 Canadian from Canadian Belater says hashtag Team Arden for having the self-restraint to not look at gecko penises in this call. I've had technical difficulties last week and DC'd this week. No. Why'd you have to bring it up again? I saw this while we were on a call and it was a serious topic and I was like, now I'm going to laugh. And this person is telling me something serious about their life and I'm laughing. Mm-hmm.
It's annoying because ADHD, so I can't be like, oh, let me focus on the caller and stay serious. I'm like, now all I'm thinking about is gecko penises. So thanks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what's the tea?
Last week, I came back from the bathroom and forgot I put myself on screen. And Josie was in the middle of something, so I just started scrolling on Facebook. And my Reels algorithm has determined that I quite enjoy like animal body horror fuckery. Like it makes me laugh so hard. And so this time I got a gecko who was like expressing its penis. The reptiles have inverted genitals in most cases, and so they have to like invert, like push out their genitals. Sure. It was pushing out its penis and like licking it at the same time.
Good stuff.
And yeah, I was just on screen. Forgot that I was on the screen, just like watching this. Like, what am I looking at? Just totally tranced into the body horror nonsense. And yeah, it was really embarrassing. And then I couldn't stop laughing for like the whole call.
I got by a video recently, not that recently, I guess, but it was like footage of a frog farting, and it was just like slowly zooming in on the butt area of this frog, and nothing. There was no fart. I was just sucked into watching a frog's asshole. Yeah, for like 2 minutes, and nothing happened. I was like, "All right, you got me. You did. You got me."
I love those fake looping videos where you're expecting something to happen, but instead you just watch it over and over again.
Yep. You got me.
Okay. That is really funny. $5 from Jamnico6. Which color are the lights in Wanda's apartment? No idea, but they can't be turned on with a scarlet switch. Nice. Wanda would have taken a Thanos. Hashtag Team Lux. Wanda almost did take Thanos.
That's true. She was emotionally compromised, though. And he was cool as a cucumber, and that's why. I don't actually know. I still need to watch WandaVision. People say it's good.
WandaVision is definitely it's hard. I think I like Loki better of the Marvel TV shows, but Wanda is a very, very close second.
All right, I'm finally going to pay for Disney, so I'll fucking watch it. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter says, I gotta disagree with Lux. If humans didn't have genders, we'd find another reason to be shitty to each other over body mod or anything. Hashtag Team Snack Mom. I mean, yeah, we're still going to create in-groups, out-groups. I mean, the example that I always think of is the one that Abigail gave on Philosophy Tube, where she's like, there could be a hypothetical other universe where we have like a tall category and a short category. And like that is the thing that we use to distinguish society to each other. Like, yeah, there's always going to be some kind of categorical something, and then like in groups form and all that. But like, it would like fundamentally, our entire society would be dramatically different if we had never segregated and like focused on that specific trait the way that we have.
Yep. I also just realized I missed one a little bit ago. My system's annoying. But $4.99 from JW Edgy. I'm sad to say I'm a fake queer. By that I mean I've only heard one song one time by Chapel Roan. Yeah, you're not really gay. Congratulations, you're straight. I hope you enjoy all the privilege.
I'm really glad that I got on the Chapel Roan thing, because otherwise, like, if you had said like 2 months ago, I would have been like, well, I guess I'm not gay. But it turns out I'm really gay, specifically for Chapel Roan, actually.
Oh my god. I'm so obsessed. I have never been completely captured by a fandom. Like, whenever I've seen people who are like Taylor Swift fans, I'm like, I like Taylor Swift music. I listen to it, but I don't get the fandom. Like, I don't get it. Mm-hmm. And with Chapel Roan, I don't know what has happened. I have just been completely captured, and I'm like, yes, whatever you say is correct and good
whatever
and
you
holy.
say, mommy,
and
yes. Sure. £5. Thank you. The Fuzzy Logic says, cross-gender toys. I'm a train driver. Earlier today, there was a little autistic girl asking tons of questions, so I gave her and her mom a tour. There was a 1 out of 2. So the next one, yeah, I let her press the whistle button. She was very excited. To the heartless TERFs who would deny her a toy train, I say choo-choo, motherfucker. Yeah, that's awesome.
You can't play with trains. Those are boys' toys.
Yeah, like, way to deny girls the opportunity to develop spatial reasoning. Anyway.
It's just also the most arbitrary thing to give a fuck about. Like, I just can't relate. $10 from Jax Takabe. Just to support TACIS and represent hashtag non-binary, hashtag transmask, hashtag Team Lux. Nice. Okay. Let's see.
$10 from Credo Mott says, there has never been a world without transgender people, just one where they haven't been able to safely be themselves. Love you both, and this show in particular. Hashtag Team Arden, hashtag no hashtag to vote thru.
Yep. Yes. Right on. Thank you, Credo. We've got $5 Canadian from Grace5769. How long do the lines normally stay open? I normally can't call until an hour after, maybe 45 minutes. I'd love to try again next week. Hashtag Team Arden. I saw there was a Grace on the line, and I think you might have been the one who dropped, so I'm guessing that was you. So lines usually stay open on TACIS about an hour tops. Usually because we have like the poll and we have these sort of side things, the caller portion of the show tends to go a little longer, even if we don't take as many calls. So I close them down a little sooner on average. But you never know. There may be late shows here and there. Often, you might find me on like the Hang Up or something. So those are options. Maybe
because you can call about trans issues on other shows here. Like,
yeah,
we're not limited. You can call in if Arden or Josie is on a different show, like a Skeptalk or whatever, and ask a trans-related question. So maybe there's another time slot that might just be better for you to call in.
You could call in. They might tell you to call this show if you're calling 2 of the cis hosts.
Yeah, of course.
And they might be like, call TACIS. Don't talk to us about this. But if one of the trans hosts is on the other shows, they're almost always good. And I know Forrest usually takes those calls because Forrest is really good on those topics. So, yeah, but I hope you get in. You can try to, I don't know, ping me in the chat next week if you are, when you're like free and you're trying to call in, and I might be able to open a line for just you. We'll see. Well, because it might not be, I don't know what next week's going to look like. I might not be able to do that, but I'll do my best.
We'll see. Sometimes we don't get as many callers, and then it's like, oh yeah, you can call in halfway through the show.
Yeah, exactly.
$5 from Jamnik06. Thank you. Said, what was T'Challa's nickname as a baby? Black Pampers. Hashtag Alia Shauna left. Hashtag I won, pun off by default. Hashtag Team Bitterdog. Thank you. He is still here, but I'm not going to. Actually, he got up and left and then came back. So he doesn't hold a grudge, and we appreciate that about him, but I'm not going to pick him up again. Thank you.
He's like, I will hold a grudge if you try to pick me up again.
Honestly, he's so chill. We put him in a truck for 4 solid days, and he did not hide from us when we got to our destination. So I'm just happy he's so chill. He's a good boy.
What a good boy. I love cats so much. $5 for mismatched. I definitely, I know you guys have told me before, I always forget the name of the virus that makes you love cats. I have been hit.
Toxoplasmosis.
Toxoplasma. Is it Toxoplasma gondosis?
I think it.
I don't know. I have been hit by the bug. I love cats. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just toxoplasmosis caused by Toxoplasma gondii.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a parasite.
$5 from mismatched, or €5. The significant increase in transgender identification among young youth wouldn't benefit from physical corrective treatments. Paltiala. Yeah, I mean, the youth aren't getting physically corrective treatments most of the time. I mean, they're getting hormonal treatments in some cases, but the impact of those is marginal and slow. I mean, it takes years for like the cumulative effects of hormone treatment to really build up and have a noticeable impact. Like,
and yet the immediate benefit to the patient's mental health.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's just so frustrating talking to these people because I'm like, it's so dishonest, it's so unaware, and I know you have access to good information, so I can only presume that it's like a weaponized intentional ignorance. Like, I don't really know what else it could be at that point.
True. $10 from John Urich. Thank you. Says, I'm racking up the ways this admin wants me gone. Might as well go for a high score. True. Are you thinking about coming out? Because do it.
I am. Yeah, coming out as all the minorities. Transracial is in only because it triggers the conservatives.
Forrest apparently was adamant that it's pronounced Toxoplasma gondii, which makes sense because it have 2 eyes in it.
Yes. Yeah, usually with the Latin, when you have 2 eyes, you pronounce both of them. One of those weird, stupid things that scientists are like, we're going to use Latin pronunciation, even though all of the roots aren't necessarily Latin, and those are the scientific names. And I'm like, it's weird. $5 from Tubi and 323. Yo, Mrs. White, we gotta cook in Minecraft. #Lux. Oh yeah, this is the bathtub insulin, baby. Listen, I mocked that when it happened. And to be fair, I think in the context of what happened, I would defend that position. However, the way we're going, your bathroom insulin is probably going to be better than whatever we're getting from the government with RFK at the mantle. So, I mean,
like climate change, like completely taking out the only facility in the US that makes IV fluids. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, no. Chemistry is a skill. You can acquire
it. That's anxiety puke. That's what that is. That's anxiety.
It is. $5, another 5. Thank you from John Urich saying, peas. I forgot to say #Team Lux. Oh well, have another $5. Y'all deserve it anyway. Thank you. We appreciate your contributions to the
Lux
cause.
just took the lead.
How did that happen? I was not expecting that. It always happens. Like right at the end, there's an upset.
People want to keep it tense.
Free. Snack are scary, and another vote for me.
Snakes
is
are
that
not
the
scary.
justification for the vote? Oh, that's sad. Snakes are good.
Yeah, some snakes are scary. Don't fuck with any coral snakes. Don't fuck with any vipers. Unless you are like very, very well trained and have done it for many years and studied under people who are very good. Don't be like any of the YouTubers you see who handle hot snakes. They're all fucking stupid. $5 from Leah Shauna Silverbow. If the X-Men turned against Professor X, it would be a mutanty. Nice. #I'm still here. #Jamnik has not won by default. #Team Snack Bomb. #ballot stuffing for Arden. Thank you. Doing your job.
$5 from Josie Caballero. Thank you, Josie. Says still at work. Wish I was on the show. #Team Josie, but really #Team Lux because we can't support the vote rigger / ballot stuff for Arden.
Josie's just mad.
Josie, you silly.
Also, earlier, something came up about being able to like admit when we're wrong or something, or disagreement among hosts. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I immediately went to Josie and I having this ongoing little battle we've got, and it made me laugh. $5 from Dominico6. Which Avenger is most trustworthy? The credible Hulk. Hashtag my bad, Ali Ashana. Hashtag Marvel Punoff. Hashtag round 2. Hashtag it's on like Donkey Kong. Hashtag Team Cats.
True. $5 from Mira G. Y'all, thank you today. You're crazy today. Just got back from doctor and missed TACIS live. Can't wait for the replay. Lux, love the new room layout. Hope the move went well. Hashtag welcome back, Lux. Thank you. Yes, it's not finished, but we've gotten somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
This is more than nothing. I got my little dragons over here. I got a little dragon egg. I got little teeny tiny dragons, you know?
It's good. I like it. You know, I used to collect dragon statues like that when I was little. Like that, it was my birthday, that was what everyone got me. It was like little dragon statues.
That's awesome.
It's always the
Something
dragon
about trans
kid.
people and like mythological creatures.
Right? I'm like, I just want to be a dragon because then I have wings and I breathe fire and I don't care about gender because I'm a fire breathing dragon and that's just better than all of it.
And I can tear apart buildings with my bare hands. That sounds like a good system. Don't give me superpowers, by the way. I just want to reiterate that.
Right.
Don't do it. Just
That's so funny. £5 from MJ. Could the next guest host be from the other side of the water so TACIS can be transatlantic? Hashtag Team Lux.
go tell Katie that.
For real.
She's the reason we're in this time slot in the first place.
Yeah. And she was supposed to be on here a little while ago, but something came up, to be fair. So it was totally
she has
valid.
something on Thursdays that specifically conflicts with TACIS, so, you know, not much you can do.
I get it. Yeah, I mean, listen, send me somebody. If they're good and they want to be on, we'll make it happen. I'm happy to give anyone one of my time slots. I've been hosting a lot lately, and I'd be happy to trade out for a good guest.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Fun fact, bats have the largest penis to body size ratio of any vertebrate, and some species have a 90 bend for aerial mating. Hashtag Team Bats so cute. Also, their titties are on the side.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So bats can, their little babies can.
Yeah.
Bats are incredible. 90-degree dicks, side titties. I mean, what more could you ask for, really?
Possibilities are endless.
It is. It's like Mr. Potato Head. Or sorry, they don't do Mr. anymore. It's Potato Head. Mixed Potato Head. Is that?
True.
$5 from Melatonin Ale. I have to file a police report to get a new prescription so soon. With my current unmedicated anxiety and ADHD, that's not happening. Hashtag Team Snacks.
I'm filing a police report because I'm a dumbass who lost my medicine. I'm not going to make that call. I'm not making that call.
Yeah, that is wild. Such an insane expectation. Is that the law in Texas? I know, Alice, you're in Texas with me.
It's like, I think the implication there is that you have to report it stolen. Like, I don't understand how else that works.
Yeah. I also do not want the police in my area knowing that I'm on ADHD meds. I'm like, yeah, no, you don't need any more information about me than you already have. That's
gross.
Terrible.
$50. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that's very generous. From Colin Sutton, no comment.
I know.
Or I think it got removed or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I saw something about. Well, it was weird. I saw it come in empty, but then it said message removed, and so I don't know if it maybe just loaded up empty on accident or what happened.
I apologize if that was a YouTube mistake, not intentional.
Tag at Arden Hart in chat. HART. Don't do HEART. If you had a message there. $9.99 from JW Edgy. Speaking about bats, I used to manage a bat exclusion company. They are sky puppies in the California area specifically. The pallid bat is a sweet little guy. I had one cuddled up with me until we rehabbed him. I love bats. I'm such a sucker. You know the cute little animals that you get videos on a lot, like otters, things that are like probably tactically exotic pets, but like nobody really keeps. But you do have those few like good videos. I love every video of a bat. They're just so adorable. Baby
it's
fox
like a conflicted
bats.
feeling because they're so cute and they are, but also I know things now about them biologically, and I'm like, oh my god, please actually stay away from me.
I will
Unless it's
take all
like
the
a rehabbed
diseases
animal,
to
I guess.
kiss you.
Yeah, you can have that. That's for you. $5 from Haley Geringer says, I'm too lazy to come up with anything witty to say today. Hashtag Team Lux. I feel you. No worries. We appreciate you anyway.
Valid as fuck. All right. €5 from Jonathan Brockett. Tip for caller Sam. The Easy P is a really easy STP to use. Hashtag Team Lux.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. I never got one myself, but people say like it fits really comfortably. It doesn't move around. It actually lets you pee without having to like artificially, like you have to like restrict your flow so that you don't overfill it. Yeah, anyway, yes, recommend the Easy Pee. It seems like Sam is not interested in going down that road, but for anybody else, I would generally recommend like, yeah, stand to pee peeing devices that look like a peeper. It passes the urinal test. It does.
Yeah. I don't think many bros are going to be like, let me investigate how realistic your penis is at the...
Yeah, they're not like looking at it, you know?
Is that silicone?
Yeah. $10 from Brent J. Thank you very much. Says, voting so I never have to vote again. Hashtag Team Arden.
Hey, yo, like Trump.
God.
You'll never have to vote again.
It's true. Always Arden win.
That's the goal. I want to be the Trump level king.
You want to be the very best, like no one ever was?
That's right. I'm going to be the king of women.
True.
$5 from Melodonale. Sorry, cis woman, I'm Mexican, but take my monies for the correction. Pins work for me to help others feel like they can talk to me. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a good move.
It just said cis W and I auto-corrected my brain to cis white because those things.
Oh,
it just says cis woman. Okay, I got it.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I remember when that happened at the time, I had that thought, but then, it passed.
Yeah.
As they do.
Bye-bye forever. Oh, God. $5 from Jemnico6 says, what do you get when Iron Man takes off his suit stark naked? Hashtag Team Lux. This is true. I'm so impressed, you guys. I wouldn't have come up with all these puns if I had sat there and thought about Marvel for 3 hours.
I don't want to be punny like that, but I appreciate it. I like more morbid, dry humor. But I appreciate you guys. $5 from Stephanie Helms. All the love to TACIS and hashtag Team Arden. Thank you, Stephanie Helms. Appreciate you.
$5 from Mr. Boricua 10 says, missed the show, will watch back. Jopnit was a good show. Keep trucking, says hashtag Team Mitternacht. I don't know what that show, what Joe Peanut. I don't know what that is.
Joe? Maybe hoping it was a good show?
Hoping it was a good show. That might be. Yeah.
Yeah. It almost looks like they're using like speech to text or something.
That might be what happened.
$9.99 from Brutus Magnuson. Every time they complain about pronouns, we make 2 more. Never acquiesce. I love that. Creating neopronouns every time. That seems like it would be a good like TikTok series or something.
That would be fun. Yeah. Thank you for another $5 from Melatonale saying, hashtag Team Arden, hashtag stuff the box. I forgot in my last few, so hashtag take my money. We will. Consider it done.
Thank you. You're trying to help me come back, but I think officially I have fallen out on this race here. That's okay.
It happens. $5 from Green Man Dave says, hashtag dragons. I have so many different dragons. My favorite is carved from white opal and matrix. Hashtag Team Lux. That's cool.
Yeah,
these are actually puzzles. This one was like a bunch of flat pieces that I had to fit together, and this one came like a bunch of flat sheet metal that I had to like bend and connect it all. So I don't have very many like straight up statues, but that is very cool.
Yeah, I love dragons and fantasy stuff. I actually just finished the first book in the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas.
I haven't read that one. I've heard it's good though.
It's super good, and I was definitely hooked right from the beginning. And it's been so nice to have a fantasy book that's just fun and there's like no consequences, and there's no like I don't know. You could probably do some sort of critical analysis to find some real world correlates or whatever, but I'm just enjoying the fantasy escapism of it all. I know last time I mentioned that a bunch of people in our audience were like mega excited. Although the spoilers in the community are crazy. I'm listening to it on audiobook, and so I've had to look up stuff to know how it's spelt, to know how to talk about it. And in doing that, just on like looking at a character's name, I immediately saw like a bunch of spoilers on the wiki, and I was like, whoa, dude. So I'm a little scared of our community, but it's great.
Is it older? Like it's been a long time, or
I don't know exactly how old. I don't think it's too old. I think it's like after 2010s.
Okay.
I could be totally wrong. First one was published in 2015, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, it's like, people are getting back into inheritance cycle because a new book just came out and the main series finished like more than 10 years ago. So it's like, I would get it if it was like, okay, it came out more than 10 years ago. But yeah, don't go on the wiki is what the lesson we learned.
Yeah. No, this is a bit of a newer series, but it's really good. It's been really fun. And I don't know. Like I said, interesting, low stakes, no consequences. All right.
5 pounds from Sean Isherwood says, Arden, if you were a dragon, then of course Matt would have to be a donkey. Hashtag Shrek is love. True.
I don't think that counts as a point for me, but maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know if I want it to count as a point. I have a chronic nightmare where I am a dragon, but I always start the dream flying and I'm like beating my wings and I'm soaring and I'm like, this is incredible. This is such an awesome experience, like just free flying over the landscapes. And then all of a sudden, it's like my wings stop working. I have to beat them harder. And it's like kind of helping keep me up, but it's not quite working. And then inevitably, I just go crashing into the ground.
It's like the running dream, where like no matter how hard you move your legs, you keep slowing down.
Yeah, it is very similar, but instead I'm a dragon, I guess. But it sounds like an identical thing.
It's a terrible nightmare, but that is cool as hell.
Right. $5 from Monkey a Typewriter. Which Avenger is the most skeptical? The Incredulous Hulk. What is Iron Man's favorite carnival ride? And the Ferris wheel. Hashtag was feeling left out. Hashtag Team Arden. Nice. Thank you guys so much. Unfortunately, it looks like I have officially lost. So
many donos today. Thank you so much, everybody, for your generosity. That's awesome.
Yes. Super, super generous from everybody. Thank you guys so much. So what presidential debate should be dance battles is what we got?
It was at 50% the last time I looked at it.
Yeah,
51%.
Should be dance battle. Nice. Bring that down just a little bit so it actually fits. Okay. Here we go, everybody. Let's charge up that clock. I am the loser in 3, 2, 1. Tell me. Listen, we all want to be involved. We all want to know what's going on, right? I want to be up to date on the facts. What's going on in the world, politics, current events. But it's just too boring, right? I mean, graphs and line charts and yawn, am I right? We need to bring back fun to the political system, which is why I'm proposing all presidential debates going forward need to be dance battles. And this also is potentially problem solving for our gerontocracy problem we got going on, you know what I mean? When inevitably Joe Biden fails to get down and he's just sitting there stiff smiling as everyone around him is dancing awkwardly. Whoever shakes it down the best is going to get our vote. And honestly, I want to vote for someone who knows how to have fun to begin with. Obviously, you want someone who's informed, who's going to have people on their side making good decisions for them. But I want someone who knows how to bring fun and life back into politics. And not in the way that Donald Trump thinks is fun, which is just like worshiping him, like actual fun to normal people and not sociopaths. So I just think that we would learn so much more about them, about their character, about the kind of person that we want running the country. Somebody in the chat just helped me. Thank you so much, Sophie Cybelle. It's the ultimate Riz contest. Who do you want leading your country? The person with the most Riz. Who's going to help us when Russia's being stupid? The guy with the most Riz. Not the guy who would take Putin's Riz in the Riz. Anyway, they're going to help prevent nuclear war and give us food and stuff and probably healthcare, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, presidential debates, dance parties, dance battles. Thanks.
Who cares about policy? I don't need to know your policy.
As
long as you're doing the move.
I know more about your policy from how you shake your ass. If you're afraid to shake your ass, your policy's not good for me. If you're ready to break it down.
Actually, if you're really good at shaking your ass, you probably have politics that I agree with.
Right?
I think we should dive into this, actually.
Right? I mean, I think it's pretty solid. Hard to beat. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This has been our show. It's going to be Lux and I next week. So, fucking go subscribe to Lux's channel. It's Musing Moss's now? Musing Moss?
Using Moss, parentheses, Luxander, because people were confused.
Yes. Google, YouTube. Go subscribe to Lux's channel. And
video essay time.
I said I was going to start doing content this year at some point, probably. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, listen, I'm here. I work a lot.
It's true.
But also, I have like 500 subscribers for no reason on that channel. So, why not do something with it? Anyway.
And also join Patreon.
Join our Patreon. Patreon.com/calltheline. Name on the thing. Look at that nice long list of people who like us. Don't you want to like us? I want you to like us. Please subscribe. Please give us money. Anyway.
Bye.
Bye.